You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, we're very, very close to spring, and we're super close to mid-March, and time keeps on flying. We have, spring forward, as some people would say, and then we fall back, but it's that daylight savings time season where we lost an hour this past weekend so that we can have more daylight during summer evenings because the spring equinox is coming on March 20th. And so we're in full mode, and we're in Pisces season, which, interesting enough, there is a lot of Pisces. Like, everyone, their mother's birthday was like this past weekend. And my younger brother's birthday is actually on Tuesday. He's going to be 22, which I'm still, processing. Like, where did time go? Like, he's literally going to graduate in like 2 months. It's like, what's going on? Like, as I'm teaching this class, my students in CCP, like, some of them are like about to be done. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, like, is everyone about to be done with school? Mr. Johnson finishes his master's program at Johns Hopkins. His graduation is going to be in May as well. And I literally had to do a double take on those calendars because I was like, I don't know, graduations, you sense like, oh, it's all going to work itself out. But you got to really look at these dates because, overlap. I remember when I graduated from Penn, I think it was around the same time as Mother's Day. And graduations do not care. They're like, that's great. Even more consumerism, like graduate, your kids are graduating, proud mom moment, But yeah, these graduations are coming up, and I don't have any like major reunions at Penn. My Big 10 year was last year, as you all know. So I don't even know if I'm going to really do not reunion, but anything. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm coming back to Penn for the spring. I don't really think I know anyone who's graduating or anyone, there's no major reunions. I always tell people, like, so I went to reunions that were not mine, like, even prior. Cause like my, like, best friends, of course, Dr. Parks and my homegirl Jessica, they graduated in 2013. So I went to the 2013 reunion, like crashed the 10-year reunion. Because I knew a lot of people in that year, and some I liked and some whatever, but it was just like next door. I mean, I live in the area, so it was nothing to go to the reunion, and it didn't feel too awkward because I knew a lot of people there. And then the year before that, I kind of just went because Mr. Johnson was doing a bartending gig, and it was like, well, we got these free passes. It's nothing for me to slide in there. And I think they did like all the years, like, because I think it was like a pandemic combination of like, even he had that with his reunions where they put all these like 3 years together. It was like one big gathering. It was crazy. But I went to that, I think, is when I was at the Penn Museum. And that was kind of cool because that was like right around, I think that reunion was right around the time of our wedding. And we had just finished the wedding. And I think I was like, yeah, I just got married here a couple of weeks ago. It was like the ultimate flex, but it was fun. Or I'm thinking like now, but there's no reason for me to go after 2014. Like, I did not care much for the class of 2015. I'm not going to hold you. Like, I didn't really like that many people from the class of 2015 at Penn. And then the further years down, it was like my husband is class of 2017. And I knew some people then, but not really. I mean, he was the exception. Abel was 2016? Yeah, Abel was 2016. So I liked 2016 a lot more. Like, there was a couple of people I remember in 2016, but like 2015, I cannot stand 2015. They were like, it fell off after 2014. Not that I'm being biased, but for those who is Penn, they just got really weird after 2014. Like, we were like the best, and I know this sounds so biased. I know I sound biased saying it, but those who was at Penn in that era know that 2014 was the last of the great class. They have not been the same over the past 10 years. After that, it went downhill. And I know everybody's going to say that about their respective class, but I do think on a cultural standpoint, at least for Black alumni, I don't know. I mean, I would say overall culture, I just felt like 2014, my year, was like the last of like very multifaceted Penn students. So let me just clarify this. The kids, I think after 2014, they're their own exceptional level of intelligence. Like they're smart. Some of them probably were smarter than us, but they're super smart. But they just did not, I don't think, epitomized that balance of being smart or being very much, studious, but also being super fun and social. Like we were, Penn was known as a social Ivy out of the other, Ivies that we have, right? And I think that out of that group, we just had the work hard, play hard balance, for better or for worse. I mean, we were known for our campus parties. I mean, out of the 8 Ivies, which for those who don't know, the 8, it is Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Princeton, Penn, Yale, and not in any particular order. Everybody got their bragging rights. Harvard is the oldest higher education institution in the U.S., but Penn is the oldest and the first university of its kind. Okay, we were the first university. It's Harvard College for many years before they became a quote unquote university. Then people like to talk about the new Ivies. There's no such thing, okay? Not to be shady, but Northwestern, we love you. Rice University in Houston, that's cute. Stanford, that's cute, but there are 8, okay? And out of the 8, Penn was the social Ivy because we just, I don't know, we got a lot of fraternity, a lot of Greek life. I think 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 8 or something like that is a part of Greek life. A lot of people, a vast majority of people from Penn marry each other, like they meet each other at Penn or have a connection through Penn, they get married. And I'm a part of that number. Like I'm one of the, 60-something%, I think it was when I first came there, where they said that 60% of Penn, alum get married to each other or whatever. And that may not necessarily mean they meet on campus. It could be at alumni, but they will typically marry amongst each other. And I'm one of those people. And I remember I joked and laughed and said, "Oh, that's not going to be me. Oh, that's for a different demographic." And lo and behold, I was a part of that number, But I think that's, and it was interesting. I thought it was maybe it's just for the white kids because they were more, in the same circles and things. But interesting enough, a lot of Black people I know that went to Penn got married to someone who went to Penn. Like I'm even like thinking about my college roommate Abel. His fiance is a Penn alum. They both went to Penn around the same time. And the crazy part was they didn't even really know each other like on campus, like the way that myself and Mr. Johnson did. But it is a lot of people who marry within Penn. It hits me like I'm like, wow, people really did stick with each other and things. It's, it is a thing. It really is. I know a couple of Penn couples, like a lot actually, that are Black and diverse. And I thought that was just like, oh, they were talking about a certain sector. No, that whole Penn date within their own, that is a real thing. That's a real thing. But yeah, we're just the social Ivy. And I feel like ever since 2014, that has just diminished. I feel like we're becoming less and less that. Like they're smart, but they're not socially ept. Like if that makes sense. Like I just look at the years after and they partied less. They were just more intense, just more anxious, just more, I guess maybe because we began to fade from millennial to Gen Z and that became the Gen Z culture versus whatever. But I don't know what the makeup is of the schools. I mean, everyone had their reputation. I mean, Harvard was always just very pomp and circumstance. They just always was that group. Like, that's always been Harvard. At least that was my time when I was in Ivies. Yale was just very forgettable, no shade. But, like, I don't remember anything about Yale. Like, Yale just always kind of just stayed hidden in New Haven. Like, they never really had any smoke. I mean, people knew they were a decent school. Everyone who wanted to be an actor or actress really wanted to go to Yale. I'm thinking about Viola Davis, Meryl Streep. A lot of people went to Yale or whatever to pursue acting, like later on. And, Lupita, she did. I mean, it's a lot. Like, I just remember Yale did have a very interesting Black class. Like a lot of black people I know went to Yale, but they were all very just hidden. Brown was just super liberal, super hippie, like all the hippies and, hyper liberal vegan slash, two spirit folk. Like they just all were in, that was Brown. Like Brown just was like a space for a lot of thinking and things and, still are to some point degree. Princeton was just, they were always trying to be the rival to Harvard. I felt like Princeton is Harvard Junior. Like they basically want in so many ways to best Harvard. They were like their own variation of Harvard, just more so, on the Jersey version of Harvard. But like they're just pretty much Harvard Junior. Cornell, Code, 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 and they got a little something going over there. I mean, to be clear, they are the founding of the greatest fraternity of all mankind. Started there in 1906. That is Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So they're just ice cold over there. But outside of being cold and being the birthplace of Alpha, Cornell is just kind of just, again, a very cold place. And we'll leave it there. Columbia, I mean, they're trying to fight to be Brown, but they're urban Brown. They're Brown University, but a little bit more urban, a little bit more gentrified. And, that's what it's giving over there. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. But, they're doing what they're doing. Dartmouth is Yale without the clout. Again, a very forgettable school. You really would forget Dartmouth had it not been for Mindy Kyle and Shonda Rhimes going there. After that, you kind of forget who else went there. Hanover, which sometimes I have to remind myself, where is Dartmouth in all of this? Like, where is Dartmouth located? But I don't know anyone who goes to Dartmouth. Like, it's just so it just gives me nerdy vibes. Like, they're in New Hampshire. Like, some people forget New Hampshire is even a state. Like, I feel like people don't remember Vermont and New Hampshire. If you ask people name states, I feel like New Hampshire, Vermont gets forgotten next to I think Montana gets more clout than them just because of, some name recognition. But Dartmouth is very much like Yale without the clout. Like they're a forgotten school. Like people forget about them, but they also don't have any clout. So there's nothing to remember distinctly about them. And sometimes I consider them the forgotten Ivy. I feel like if you ask people to name Ivies, they will name many, but like Dartmouth, just whatever. It just gets left out the conversation. And then, of course, there's Penn, which is the social Ivy, or was at one point the social Ivy. I feel like Penn, like if you look at the alum that's there, like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, myself, Tory Burch, John Legend, John Huntsman. Penn is I think the epicenter of socially wise, a very extreme on both fronts. You have some of the most intellectual, thought-provoking minds that are very powerful, but also very culturally relevant. You have the best of both worlds. You have high altitude talent and intellect and power and prestige, but then you also have this level of super popular, super relevant, super consequential, all in one. I feel like Penn represents the modern American Ivy. I think we are the hottest thing right now. And I would argue not because of, for better, for worse, but you have major billionaires coming out of Penn, but you also have major thought leaders and provocateurs and political, there has been a resurgence and a revival of Penn in a very cultural way where you cannot ignore Penn alumni's presence and influence on society right now. I mean, we start from Donald Trump to Elon Musk to whomever. A lot of people, hot people are coming out of Penn, whether you like them or not. They're just major figures. And I think that is because of people are starting to really realize the hyper-professional culture of Penn coupled with the very extreme social aspect of Penn. Everything is on steroids at Penn. And I think that is what makes me, part of it. My whole working of way of hustle, that got really jolted by my experience at Penn. It plays a major role, I think, in the way in which shaped me and how I entered even industry. Because everything is it's interesting that Penn, ironically, even though it reinforces a certain rigid structure of work. Like they can produce robots. They produce a lot of robots, right? But then there's also a bunch of iconoclasts that are generated from Penn based on them fighting against that. It's such a dichotomy, but that is really what it is. Like you're going to get the most rebellious folks that's going to come out of Penn amidst a system that also breds a bunch of like staple people. So you have a bunch of like typical Wall Street consulting folks that just go through that. A bunch of like research driven, scholarly, meds and eds folks, right? You have that like cookie cutter box of that. They churn out a lot of people like that. But in the midst of each of those eras, you're going to have these like standout people that were disruptive based on trying to break away from that mode. So you see that with Elon Musk. You see that with Trump. You see that with myself. You see that with, John Legend. You see that with Tory Burch in the fashion industry. Vera Wang's daughter went there. Denzel's son went there. You see that with a lot of other like interesting characters and figures. I mean, Mark Lamont Hill went there for his doctorate. I mean, there's a lot of folks that came. Adam Grant, like some real interesting people who've come out of Penn and has been movers and shakers in very ways. It just does that to you. I can't. I don't know. I guess that's the best way I could put it in words. But it's something unique about it that just lives with you. But yeah, it's very very interesting times. Very interesting times that we're in socially in society with everything going on. But, I enjoyed my spring break. I come back to CCP, as you know, this week, classes begin. And it was a good spring break. I really enjoyed my CCP spring break edition. Like, it was a good time to just be able to just take on some gigs, some opportunities, just relax. I did not grade until the end of the weekend. I really didn't want to use my spring break to grade papers and things. I just, took the weekend to do it. But like the week itself, I thought I was going to jump on it, but I was like, no, I'm going to actually enjoy not doing anything, college related. And I was all the better for that. I was very happy with that. And also it gave me time to really just reset, to get excited, for what was coming up, in the following week. Because this week is, this is like the end of their midterm season. Like all their, I guess, quote unquote, midterm stuff was due right before spring break. So we're in that final crunch because next month, mid next month, April time, the class is going to be done. And there's going to be like finals. I don't give finals in my class. Like I give like final papers and things, but I try not to do like dragging on past, the last day of classes. So yeah, like we're in the home stretch. So I'm excited. This group has been very good so far. So I look forward to the second half of our journey. So things I did this week. I have some updates, some things, and some good updates. So interesting enough, my younger brother spent his spring break in Houston. He wanted to see his friends and things. I guess they're all like coming together before they all, go about their lives. And so they decided to link up for spring break in Houston. And so he had a Houston spring break. And this weekend, there was a lot of just activities. So we all went to Miss Dawn Appreciation Day. That's my fave. I love me some Miss Dawn. She is the owner of Details About Miss Dawn, which is my favorite catering company in Philadelphia. She's in Jersey and Philly. She does work in Delaware. She's an all-around woman, but she's an incredible chef, and she is my personal chef when it comes to any private events that I do. I mean, she's done my wedding shower. She's done Thanksgiving. She's done birthday parties. I mean, she's just the all-around chef. There's a lot of people that talk about other catering companies, but the only two that I recommend in Philadelphia is Miss Dawn. Details About Miss Dawn. She's my number one. And then, of course, Miss Brown's Kitchen. Okay? Miss Brown. Miss Pat Brown is a West Philly legend. She caters well as well. She's the best of the best. She's the top of the top. She's the creme de la creme. And so I definitely hold her cooking in high regard as well. I grew up on Miss Brown's. And those who live in Philly who are Black specifically know that there's these catering companies. Ms. Dawn is this sterile as well. Both of them are great. I think what sets details about Ms. Dawn apart is that she just got a bigger crew and she's a little bit more versatile with her catering. But Ms. Brown's catering, if you're looking for, she's good on that dinner. You want a catered gala, dinner, whatever, she's good. Both of them are great. I mean, but, she gives that extra oomph and soul. And she does a really nice job with like small intimate party situations too. And then Chef Zuri. Okay, Chef Zuri. Now, Chef Zuri, I like him specifically. They all have their strengths and they all are good at what they do. Chef Zuri, his company is called Zuri Cooks. He is really well with doing packaged meals and lunches. Like if you want to get a lunch conference situation catered, he does really good with his portion sizes and creating that experience for small gatherings. So for my monthly PABJ meetings, we always use Chef Zuri to do the catering because he's really good at creating those individual packaged meals when you don't want to do like the full-fledged, in-person catering thing. He is great with that. So if you're looking for somebody to do like a meal prep situation or something, that is his strength. He is really good with that. And his portions are good. His quality, his food is good. And he is Zuri Cooks. That is Zuri. So those are my three. Those are my top three as far as full-fledged catering. There's one caterer I purposely have not mentioned because a lot of you all talk about this person because they've been around, that's what it is. But some of these caterers in Philly, they're serving you wingdings. They're serving you really, really small ass meatballs. And they're giving you the most lowest of the lowest portions, but you all are paying ridiculous prices for them. It's a particular man who has a catering company. I will not name names, but it's not as eatable as people might claim it to be. I'm talking too much, but I say all this to say, Ms. Dawn does an appreciation day for her VIP customers, and I one of her VIP clients. And so Mr. Johnson and I, we enjoyed ourselves there. And of course, I brought my little brother along because he will never turn down any opportunity to get a free meal or go see a free show. So, it was a good time. His birthday's coming up, so I'm super excited. And it was a nice Sunday fun day vibe. What else? Because I have a list of like things. I'm okay. So the flower show. We got to talk about this flower show. Flower show was cute. It's always a great time to take cute pictures with someone you love, and be in lovely full bloom. And so I didn't go to the flower show. I went to the flower show, but in a very cool way. I went to this event that the Philadelphia Cultural Society do. It's called Flower After Hours. Like it's a evening event that like is towards the end of the flower show, but it's like the final night. And it's a late night experience. It's from like 8:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. It's like a 3-hour thing. They have like some drinks, and we'll get to that in a minute. But they have like drinks. They have a theme. It's like a little dance party vibe, but it's also like a really fun way for people to be at the flower show late at night and be able to mix and mingle. And there's like these different stations, and it's fun. So Mr. Johnson, Bartender Barry, had a station that he set up to promote one of his companies, and it was cute. So I wish he would have bartended, but he couldn't because I guess the health department, they won't let independent bartending take place. So they have like this whole thing with like liquor license, which he has that. But like, I guess their vendors, the liquor sponsors they had in place were the only ones that could do it. So you have to pair with a liquor group to create said drinks. But it was very rigid on that front. And so he couldn't make his own cocktails or batches. So what he did was this really cool station where all these really cool ingredients that he uses for his cocktails, like lavender syrup, and like he had like chamomile and cardamom or whatever, like these different like spices and scents. He like this really cool like sensual experience where people can smell the various different spices and things that he puts in his cocktails, and also like the essence of some of his cocktails and like what he uses. And there was like a cool QR code where you can scan it, and it will give you the ingredients and the recipes to make the cocktails that people was able to smell on site. It was very cool and unique. And I was wondering to myself, like, were people really going to be into it? But they were. And I think it was because of the flower show. Because, I mean, that's what happens. People are going to the flowers, looking at them, taking pictures, smelling them, looking at them, and having that experience. And, like, how cool to do that with, like, you know, with cocktail making or whatever. It was a hit. It was a smash. And what was interesting was, listen, he has that, so there's this term called golden gaze. And I just heard about this. This is, first of all, let me be very clear. If you're straight, please don't say this word. And please, you know, listen, this is a podcast that is open to a diversity of listeners. But I want to prevent some of you all from getting yourselves cursed out in real life. We'll talk about more of that later on in the podcast. But I want to protect some of y'all from getting cussed out. There are certain terms and references I will use on this show just for cultural education. Please take it, listen to it, but don't repeat it to other people, because sometimes these kind of conversations are not as intimate. And sometimes as a queer person, there's conversations that I will share frequently to keep you all out of trouble, but you don't feel warranted to say these words in other spaces. And then someone curses you out and you say, well, I heard Ernestly speaking. Then don't do them. Full disclaimer. You hear it here, but sometimes you can't share it. Okay. Because, you know, respect. But, you know, sharing my experiences, earnestly speaking. This term golden gaze is apparently gays who have never, like, they're considered, you know, completely pure. They've never had sex with a woman. And so it's like almost like in many ways that golden gaze is like, I guess that's a term, because there are some gay people who, I mean, you know, respectfully so, have had relationships with women in the past before they, you know, came out as gay or whatever. I can say that myself and Mr. Johnson are golden gays. We're golden gays. We have not done the thing. I mean, he's a golden gay, because I don't think he even had he's never had a girlfriend before. I had a girlfriend, but I never, you know, there was nothing sexual at all. It was just like we were very young. We were just like holding hands and a kiss on the cheek, but we never really did anything at all, like anything. I've never had sex with a woman before. And so I guess I am a golden gay. And the same with Mr. Johnson. We're golden gays. That's why we're so compatible. I feel like it gets a little messy no, I'm joking. Let me stop. But, you know, it's a thing apparently. But please, with all due respect, don't call me a golden gay if you're straight. Don't even say that term around me. Don't even hint at it. Don't joke at it. Keep your mouth the fuck shut. And before you even start, there is no such thing as golden straights. Okay? We're not even going to play those games. Y'all don't get that. Y'all don't get to convert everything. Just stop it. Just don't even think about it. Like, there's just some stuff that, like, I just feel like there are terms that work for certain cultures and groups based on social, societal things. You cannot reclaim the title golden straight, because most of you all don't even believe in bisexuality. So it's almost like you can't even use that term. But golden gay is interesting because most of society, well, it takes a lot for people to get to a place to be themselves. But I wonder, research-wise, if there is an increase in golden gays now, because in many ways, you know, in some spaces, in many ways, it's legal and socially accepted in some areas and cases to be gay. So some people don't feel like they have to, you know, go through different experiences to get there. Versus some people where I know a lot of folks that said, look, I had to be married, or I had a girlfriend, I did this, because it's just almost like they had to force in that way. I mean, to some extent, I had a girlfriend, you know, when I was younger, but like I didn't, you know, it was nothing else beyond that sexually. But I wonder, like, if that is in reduction now, like if people can just go straight to dating men without even having, or women, depending if they're women or whatnot. But I wonder if they can go just be head on, you know, it's much sooner. And it's interesting because people are saying things like, oh, there's an increase of young people, you know, being gay. But I'm like, I don't think there's really much of an increase of young people being gay. I just think, you know, I just wonder if it's well, I don't even have to wonder. I think the reason why we're seeing these high numbers of out queer people is because society isn't as discriminatory compared to where it used to be. I mean, there's still discrimination, but it's not as much as it used to be. So I think that, of course, there are more people that can easily self-identify as a member of the LGBTQI community, because there's more education for people to self-identify, and also there is less stigma around being who you are. And so as a result, of course, it's easier for younger people to feel more comfortable because they're in certain spaces and places where it's okay to be gay, right? Versus, even 10, 15, even 20 years ago, that still was not the case. And so I could see the numbers increasing more. Does that mean there's actually more queer people in America? No, I think there's just more people that are open about identifying as such. And I think that's a crazy experience to be in, to be honest. And I think that makes all the difference. That makes all the difference. So it's yeah, I think sometimes people, that's a way of looking at data, because a lot of people make that data thing. But anyway, I digress. So I bring all this up to say that when he was there, a lot of girls were hitting on him, on Mr. Johnson. And I told him, I said, listen, you're a golden gay, but the ladies, they don't know that. They see him and they listen. All they would do listen, because at the flower show, the way the flower show is set up, it's a lot of guys. There's not that many guys that go unless they're with their girlfriends or dates, but a lot of single women were going. I didn't see that many single men. Like most of the men that were there were with their girlfriends and wives. And then the women and the people that were there that were single were mostly women. So you see this hot guy that's at this station, getting you to smell these scents and telling you about them and being all, stealth, as we call it in the community, stealth. And I'm not going to tell you what that means. You can look that up, the word stealth. Well, actually, fine, I'll tell you, fine. But stealth, this is basically like a way of saying a person is, quote unquote, passing off as straight. In other words, and this is very problematic, but, we're having these conversations. People that I guess are not perceived to be gay, or you couldn't perceive them to be gay when you encounter them. And that's a very fucked up thing, because it leads into the question of like stereotypes. And so I really don't say it as often, but there straight people, you all make things based on stereotype. Like, I can tell if a person's trans or gay. No, you fucking cannot. And I really believe that. Like, you really cannot. But there are people who just swear they have this gaydar. You don't have it, straight people. Let me tell you something, baby. And I told my good friend this. We had this conversation, and we just kiki, Dr. Parks. Now she's been around me for a minute, so she been trained properly. But we were saying that I told her, I said, if I tell straight people, if you can tell, baby, they're not hiding anything, sweetheart. If you can quote unquote tell, baby, 9 times out of 10, they're not quote unquote DL, and y'all got to let that go. Because y'all just use these words and you just don't know what you're talking about. But let's have this conversation, because it's long overdue. We haven't had it in a while, and there's new listeners listen to the podcast, and sometimes, I hear little things. But let me be very clear. Straight people, y'all don't have gaydar. Y'all think y'all do, but you all don't. Now, some of you all who are very, very close and have been around enough, you might, but a lot of you all don't. And a lot of times the people that you think that you're like, oh, I can sense or tell, it's not a sense or tell. Some of these people are not DL. Some of these people are just discreet. Some of these people are just don't ask, don't tell, but they're not necessarily, out here. Like, you all use the word DL so inappropriately. Let me be very clear with you all about these terms, okay? Not that it's any of your fucking business, but let me just shut you all down on I think I can tell you. Okay, let me start with this. DL are individuals who are men dating women publicly and privately and secretly. They have real, true passions and affairs for other men. That is what DL is. I'm going to tell you all something, let you in on a little secret, okay? Especially in this modern era in 2025. Let me tell y'all something. You will not know a DL man if the DL man does not want to be known. I will tell you that a real DL guy, you all will not know. And even hell, child, 90% of the time, well, not 90%. I've gotten a little bit better. I'm a little bit older now. 75% of the time, I don't be knowing, okay? A DL man will not be revealed. A DL man will reveal himself. What I mean by that is you ain't gonna clock it unless you really, there's just no way. Let me tell y'all, back in the day when I was a single girl, how I knew I encountered a DL man was not me going somewhere and just finding out. On rare occasions, if you just somehow expose somebody, then yeah, okay, then in that case, yeah, the DL guy's out, whatever, it's Scooby-Doo mystery, right? But outside of that, right, you would not know unless you was in a situation where they would share. And so me and my bestie, Dr. Parks, was on memory lane a couple days ago. We was talking, and I was saying to her, like, that the DL men that we knew were men that we did not know until they revealed themselves, meaning that you would be in a situation and you would just be chilling. And I was that eye candy. I was that magnet where I would go out and, people would just, I'm thinking one way, and then the dude would say, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like a mouth drop, a plot twist in the movie. And you're like, oh. And so that was my situation. I was DL bait, guys would just, and I would even know, like, it would be like, whoa, 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 whoa. You go to a party, they come in with this girl, they a cute couple, he's some player. And let me be very clear. It's not, and I want to avoid stereotypes, but see, I was in college. So unfortunately, the stereotypes are very strong. It would be the football player, the basketball player, and and so I remember this one situation where it was this guy in this fraternity, and he was a ladies' man. All the girls liked him. He definitely had hooked up with girls for sure. And I was at a party. I was dancing. I was doing me. And it was real dark. And this boy pinched my ass. And I was like, oh, maybe he's drunk. He doesn't know, whatever. And then I'll go into a room. See, I might be telling the location because now I'm talking too much, because when the house we was at, they had a kitchen that was on the same floor. See, some people might even know what house I'm talking about, but I'm going to digress. But I went to get me some water or whatever. And the dude comes back to me, talks to me, says, what's up? And I was like, hi. And they were like, what's good with you? And it was obvious. I mean, look, numbers got exchanged and went down. But I say all this to say that you do not know. You do not know. And so that's what I tell people, like, DL men, you don't know. And it was funny because my friend and I, we were just talking about this. We went to a party at Temple. This was, back in the day. And this guy, he was like a security guard or whatever. He was on a bike, like one of the Temple bikers or security guys, whatever they do. But he had called, I was with a group of girls, and it was me and my homegirls. He was coming from a party. And I was definitely, dressed up in party attire. And he calls one of the girls over, and we're like, ooh, you getting chose. So I send my friend over. We're like, ooh, girl, he want to get your number. Go get your number, girl. We just like, whatever. So she walks a little bit over, she walks over to him because he's on his bike area. And I'm like, oh, okay, she about to get the dude's number because he was real cute, buff and everything. And she comes back and she's quiet. So I'm like, okay, why is he still there? He just gonna wait. I guess he wanted to see her walk because he wanted to look at her from the back. Because he stayed while she walked towards us. So I'm thinking, why he still here? Like, okay, he got the number, he got something. Why he can't just go back? So she comes over and she says, oh, he asked about, he doesn't want me. I was like, what? Because I'm like, she bad, she cute. Like, which one of y'all? And then she said, she wants you. He wants you. And she was talking to me. I was like, me? I had that Princess Diaries. Me? A princess? Shut up. No, I'm joking. But it was wild. So I went over there. I was like, oh, he wanted my number. That's DL. Y'all don't understand that. That's a different, they don't, listen, they might make them like that. I ain't been in the market for a while, but that is DL. That's, you won't know. You all will be gagged. Okay? They say they don't make them like that anymore. I was talking to my friend Jamarcus, who's very single and, very available. And he is like, the DL men don't, it's like a dying, maybe they are a dying breed. They extinct. I don't know. But like, that was DL. Y'all don't know anything about that. So all y'all walking around saying, I can tell, girl, that's not DL. So what is that? That is either closeted or discreet. And I want to be very mindful about closeted and discreet because it's very different. So closeted is somebody who, okay, hypothetically, you think you can quote unquote tell. I hate to say that because I just feel like we shouldn't be judging sexuality like that. But I got to educate the people right now. And this is the shit that y'all think y'all know. So closeted is basically somebody that you can tell, right? But they're not necessarily disclosing. And they're very much so, people think that's DL, but let me tell you why that's not DL, because closeted in this regard are individuals that you can quote unquote tell, but they're not necessarily dating women. Like they're not out here like actively married, engaged, dating women or anything like that. Like they're not wasting any woman's time, quote unquote. They're not, they just very much so. They'll say they got a girl, but you'll never see the girl. They'll say where the hoes at, quote unquote, but there's no hoes to be found that they're interested in. They will talk all day about how, they had the right woman like a Beyonce, even though they're giving, Slim Thug money and energy. Like they're giving, like it's always some goalpost on why they don't have a girlfriend or why you can't find the chick that they're supposed to be with, right? Closeted, right? Very much so. They might be subtly homophobic because they're trying to not draw attention. But 9 times out of 10, their actions and the way in which they behave lets you see something about them where you're like, something is different, right? That's closeted. That's not DL. That's closeted, okay? There is a difference, okay? And so y'all get DL confused with closeted all the time. But there's another category. And this one right here is the category that I believe Mr. Johnson fits in, even though he does, he's in a different category. I'll get there in a minute. This one is called discreet. And this is one that gets y'all tripped up too. And this is what y'all, and this would be having y'all fucked up, the straights. So discreet is somebody who does not necessarily say what their sexuality is. Because quite frankly, it's none of your business. And 9 times out of 10, the people that need to know, or the people they want to know, because that's who they want to pursue. They're not hiding anything from anybody. They're not necessarily disclosing being, homophobic and disrespectful. To each their own. They let people live their lives, right? I would say Queen Latifah falls in that category of discreet. Queen Latifah is not on the DL. Queen Latifah is not closeted. Queen Latifah is discreet. She's like, look, I'm not hiding anything from anybody. You see me with this person I'm with. Do I need to walk around and tell everybody that this is my wife? Is it any of your business? No. I just do my thing. Am I ashamed of who I am? No. I just don't feel like I need to necessarily have that conversation. What's my business is my business. And that's different from being closeted, because closeted is a level of shame. There's a level of, deny, lie, dismiss, fool, play games and charades. DL is on a level of like complete and utter secrecy, right? Discreet is just more like, it is for me to know and you to find out. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But goddamn it, it's none of your business for me to run around and whatever. And I'm not hiding nobody. I feel like Queen Latifah is discreet. A lot of people want to say she's closeted. A lot of people want to say DL. No, she's discreet. It's none of y'all business. But in reality, I don't think there's no confusion about who she is. And I don't think she's necessarily hiding anything. It's just that that's not your business to have a conversation with her about her sexuality. And I can respect that. I respect that. So then there's a term called stealth. And this right here gets y'all girls tripped up. Now this stealth is the thing. Stealth is an out gay man who you all, because of your warped sense of stereotypes, will not believe or sense this person's gay, even though there's nothing about them that will confuse you. I think in certain settings, not all settings, but I think in certain settings, I think my husband is stealth. I think I've seen it. I have seen it. I am not stealth. Y'all see me. And then get the stereotypes. You see the bag, you see the cute face, you see the colors and whatever. You all have stereotypes. But I think Mr. Johnson is stealth. In certain scenarios. Like if he was at the flower show, I wasn't there. I wasn't at the station all the time. I would mix and mingle and whatever. But when he would be there by himself doing his thing, he got them guns out. They over there hollering at him, right? And then it's funny because I'll come by and then, we'll be right next to each other. I'll be with him or whatever. And then people get the hint. And I can't tell you how many times we've gone to galas or events and, I'll go to the bar, get a drink or whatever, whatnot. And he'll be by himself somewhere. Some girl will talk to him. He'll make conversation. He's just being himself. And I'll go over and he'll be like, oh yeah, this is my husband or this, whatever. And they'll just be like, oh, like there's a whole level of surprise. And again, he's not hiding anything. Ring is on, everything's on, but again, stereotypes that have people thinking. And I think a lot of people do that with the transgender community. I think people assume in the trans community that, oh, I could tell a trans person. Y'all got to stop that. Y'all got to stop that. Y'all got to stop that, because different people in their presentation and their level to which they've transitioned or, become who they are, how they identify. Listen, you got to stop saying you can tell. Some cases, maybe some people, but some people, you won't have no clue. I will tell you that. And again, is it because they're hiding anything? Not necessarily. Is it your business? What relevance it would serve for you? But I tell straight people all the time, with all of these perceptions, y'all got to get y'all terms right. And so that's how you get an impromptu lecture on the difference between DL, closeted, discreet, and stealth. Y'all got to know y'all terms. Y'all got to know them. DL, keep it out your mouth. You don't know nobody DL unless you are married to somebody and you catch your man in bed, or you catch your girl or whatever doing something, and then you find out, okay. But a lot of you all be running around here talking about some, I can tell. A lot of times, baby, that ain't no DL, that's closeted. Get your words right. And some of these women that I know came up to me and said, my man was on DL, and I want to say, baby, he was not on a DL, honey. That was a closeted man, baby. I'm sorry, no shade, no tea, no shade, baby. But baby, Ray Charles could have saw it. You didn't, but that's okay for you. But baby, a lot of us did. Some of y'all here talking about your dudes on DLs, like, is he? Or was you just in denial? Wrong D word. But I digress. But nonetheless, the flower show, the flower after hours party, I guess the subtitle for this podcast, outside of it being called Ernestly Speaking, is called And I Digress. But the flower show, my critique about it, because I do have a critique about the flower show. The flower show after hours party. The tickets for that event is $75 per person. I'm going to give you this critique, and as somebody who is married to someone who has a talent for bartending and doing drinks and cocktails and whatnot and what have you, I come from the school of, if you're going to have an event with a lot of liquor, there or whatnot, or just having bars and things, you need to have food. It does not necessarily need to be like a whole meal, right? But you should have some level of food when you have an event with a lot of liquor. And I have to say that I was utterly disappointed with the Flowers After Hours situation, because tickets to the flower show is around $50. The after hours party is $75. I don't know what the material value was for the actual event. Now, I was a +1 because Mr. Johnson had a station, so I didn't have to pay for a ticket. But for the people who did, I felt bad for them. I felt like people got ripped off, because I don't understand what they were spending money for. There was no food. Doce, I think the Italian restaurant that's connected to Doce, they had cookies, right? They had this little pack of like sweet treat cookies. That was the only edible thing there. There was a station that had a little bit of candy, but it was just like random candy. It was nothing serious. I mean, it was like dumb pops or whatever. But everything else, there was stations of like wine samples. So like little like medicine cup samples of wine. There were like no cocktails, except if you wanted to buy $17 cocktail, like syrupy blue cocktails. That was the bars, long ass lines for like $15 cocktails that were overpriced and wasn't tasting like anything. But there was beer. There was areas of station of beer. They sold stateside vodka, canned cocktails. But like everything was just like a bunch of liquor places that was selling. But there was like no food. Like no food. Like I kid you not. Like no crackers, no cheese, no soft pretzels, no tasty cakes. Typically some events will just have some silly Philly favorites, but there was like no food at all. So you're having an event on a Saturday night from 8:30 to 11:30 at night. You have all of this opportunity, access to liquor. You have hundreds of people, and you have no food. It was unacceptable. It was unacceptable. And yet you're charging people 50% more, right? That ticket is traditionally $50 to go to the flower show. But you're charging them $75 for this event, and there's no food. And there's a couple little samples. Hell, listen, best ticket in town is Whiskey Fest. Philly Mag's Whiskey Fest, baby, it don't get no better than that. I mean, you talking about per value, like they get you turned. But with all that liquor, baby, there's lots of food. Lots of food. Because you got to let people have a reason to sober up. You get a little bit of something, go get you some food. Let some of that, as my bestie Jamarcus would say, let feed this liquor. Okay? You got to have some food. And so for them to have that much liquor in Center City at an event without any food, I just thought was unacceptable. And it just unacceptable. It was unacceptable. Yeah, I was not a fan of it. They've then did this for several years, but I just had to give y'all an honest review. And as somebody who, again, did not pay for a ticket myself, the fact that people did pay for tickets and did go, I just felt like there had to be something there. And I get it's after hours, so the argument could be, oh, go to dinner, then go there or whatever. Nah, like you should just, I don't know. I just feel like for an event that long and that late, and the fact that people were driving and getting parking, it's like, it just seems to me responsible to have food. If you're going to have that kind of liquor there. That's just, yeah. And it should be, like, that's an opportunity. That's a catering opportunity. Like, there should have been, like, at least 1 or 2 food trucks or themes there to have. There's some food trucks or packaged snacks, or somebody should have a vendor snack sell. But, like, I just feel like to have no food there was just, that really annoyed me. Because late after the event, I was like, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to keep it cute. It's going to be an event like this at a flower show. Of course, with this many vendors and stations, of course they're going to have food. I've never been to an event at that type of scale that did not have any type of food. Yeah. I mean, listen, I've been to events that have Wawa mini hoagies and crap, and it wasn't the best, but at least they had something. I was like, they didn't have a soft pretzel, y'all. It was just, that just disappointed me. So I will just say that after hours, flower after hours, I wasn't too much of a fan. It was pretty. And let me also say this, because I just want to add this. Is it just me, but are dudes getting bold in 2025? I don't know. Maybe I've been out the scene because the straights be cutting up. Because I don't really, it's just, I just was like, there was some men, listen, I'm going to say this, okay? There was some men that was at this flower show that was not with their wives or girlfriends. I guess maybe that's just the thing. Like, this is the place with this the spot where the guys be taking a little low key. This is where the low key the people be. They take their main John to the flower show throughout the week, and then they go to a little after hour thing with the mistress or the side girl, whatever it is. Because I was just like, I saw some things I had no business seeing, but see, people don't get caught out here. Because see, let me tell you what my little device is. Let me tell you what I do. Listen, I be looking out for folks. I bring that phone. And I did it a couple years ago. Y'all remember one episode, I think I talked about this in one previous season, but I had a situation where I had a phone. And let me tell you, that phone go wide, baby. I do a little wide shot. And y'all be like, why are he doing this wide shot in his Instagram story? Let me tell you why I do that. Because I be catching people out here slipping and cheating, doing some shit they shouldn't do. And some of these people be following me and fans, and they see. And so how I do it is I don't zoom in on the couple, but I do this wide, long, slow shot. My cinematography be lit. And I just have the camera and I just be doing a wide shot. Like, who's all here? And somebody always catches somebody in my camera. Like, can you bring that back a little bit? And that's how I do it. I be out here on the lurk. I be a private spy for the girls. I had a situation at the flower after hours party. I ain't gonna tell anybody's business. But I was out. I was with my phone and I did a little wide shot. And somebody caught, and this girl said, hold on real quick. Where you at right now? And I was like, oh, I'm at the flower shop. Blah, blah, blah. They said, okay, you see that man that blah, blah, blah color suit? Because I ain't going to disclose this. This show is a very, viewer, listener discretion is advised. But they described the color of the outfit. And I said, oh yeah, what about him? Can you go back and do another video? I was like, why? Just for me. I was like, okay, cool. So I did a slow-mo of the man and the girls together, but I also, had the crowd, so it looks very influencing. She needed the screenshot. She screenshotted the story because I think she's going to pull up on him because I guess that's her man and he was out with his ex. Look, y'all, in this day and age with social media, I don't encourage cheating. I don't encourage infidelity. Black men don't cheat. Some of them, I guess, do. The Nathaniel rules of them all. But let me tell y'all something. Y'all need to stop. We're in a culture where there's influencers social media, high profile people, folks will have you in the camera. And if you out here, why y'all go to these public facing events? I just don't think any public facing event in the era of new, because people will see it. Even when you're not trying to see. Listen, my DMs, people see things I don't even be seeing. They tell me stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, damn. So you just gotta be, I don't know. Just you know what? The answer isn't be careful. The answer is stop cheating. That's fine to say. Let me get myself together. Let me set an example. The answer is, because I was gonna say, y'all gotta be careful with these cameras. You know what? No, that's not the right answer. Because like in this world, like that's what we tell women, right? We victim blame. No, y'all need to be careful. Y'all need to stop cheating. Break up with the person. Stop wasting their time. Stop playing games out here. Be an adult. You know, that's what you need to be doing. Don't be ducking cameras. Duck infidelity. That's a catchphrase. I'm gonna start saying that. Don't duck cameras. Duck infidelity. Stop it. Be yourself. Live with the person. Stop trying to double date and shit. You know, that I just want to put that out there. So moving along. Yeah, so in a nutshell, I was not too crazy about the flower show after hours. Now, the regular flower show, I mean, if you're into flowers and horticulture and all that, like I was with the plants, it is fun. There are some great pictures you could take with a lover or a friend, you know, but have a good time. I want to talk about Korean barbecue hot pot. I went to this spot. It's called K-Pot. It's in South Philly. It's in the suburbs, not the suburbs. It's in South Philly. It's not suburbs. It's in a plaza. Let me get that right. It's in a plaza. The reason why I said suburbs is because I've noticed that in a lot of suburban areas, these plazas are really known, especially like in Philly, like the Philly suburbs have their own little mini plaza court where they'll put all these restaurants and things next to each other with great parking. But in South Philly, they have a couple of those. And so I think it's like the Wyncote or whatever it's called, plaza, something like that. I might be misspeaking, but it is an area, I don't think it was Wyncote, it was something, but it had a bunch of like little spots. Like it was Skechers, ShopRites over there, and a lot of you are from South Philly, like, oh, I know that area. Well, there's a place called K-Pot, and it's a Korean barbecue and hot pot place. It was very fun. It was like an all-you-can-eat situation. It was like $40 per person. Mr. Johnson and I did like a double date with his good friend Amber and Liz, who we went to their wedding last fall. And so we did like a couple's dinner. It was cute. And then we played spades afterwards at our place. But we went to dinner. It was a very unique experience. I haven't done a hot pot situation before, but for those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's like a situation where they give you a bunch of different meats and seafoods and things you can pick from, and they let you cook and heat your own food on the little grill thing they have connected to the table. But then they also have these pots where you can pick your broth, you can pick your protein, your noodles, and you put it in the pots itself and you cook the food yourself. So you basically you cook your own food and everything like that. And you get different meats and things and you season and things like that. So I have thoughts. So for starters, it was a fun experience. It was cute. It's fun to do with a group. Like it was nice for us. It was four people. So it was fun because we was having conversation. It was a fun, situation. As a couple, we just did it, me and him. I think we would have not enjoyed it as much because it would have been a little annoying. Because basically, I don't know. Like I will say, affordability wise, it was reasonably priced. I mean, $40 was worth it. It was definitely priced. It was worth the price. And they did have variety. Like there was seafood for people who are like pescatarians. They had different types of meat. They had short rib. They had steak. They had various chickens, different types of salmon. They had pork belly. They had a lot of different options to choose from. So it is a great opportunity for picky eaters that there's something for everyone there. So I will give them credit for that. I think for me, it's just one of those experiences where it's one of those I'll do it once a year kind of thing, but it would not be something that I would just like do all the time. I think everyone should have the experience and do it for fun, but it's not like a thing that I will just do all the time. Like there are some people like hibachi. I feel that way about hibachi. I'm just kind of like, okay, it's cute to do once a year or something, but like I'm not the kind of person that's like wowed by it. Like even like Fogo de Chao or Chima, places like that. Now I will say I will say that I would probably do a little bit more. But like a Chima situation, like when they do the little Brazilian steakhouses, I feel like that's maybe a once or twice a year thing as well. I think things like that, it could get boring really fast. Like I had a phase where I went to Chima like a lot because I was always getting invited, and like the Lit Brothers, we loved it. It was like the one thing we could all do that we all like collectively loved. But at a certain point, we did it so much that we just kind of were like, okay, this is like so much. I don't think I've done a Brazilian steakhouse in like a year and a half because I did so much of it like around the pandemic, that now I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I feel like I'm overdue. Like now I might be like, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I might be ready for one of those Brazilian steakhouse. There's a place called Nebraska or Nebraska, whatever. It's where the old Chima used to be. Chima's not there anymore. It's a new Brazilian steakhouse that's there. I think it's called like Nebraska or something like that. I have not went to that new location yet and tried it, but I've heard it's more affordable and it's good. But yeah, like I mean, Brazilian steakhouses, like I feel like I did it so much, like in my earlier years that like now it's kind of like, and I feel like that's how I feel about the whole, K-pot, barbecue Korean thing. I think it's a trend. I think it's fun. I think you should go if you haven't been. That location in particular, I like their drinks. Their cocktails are very affordable. Like they had $8 margaritas, regular price, $12 martini cocktails and things, and everything was good. So I was impressed with their drink prices. It was a very affordable event, but quality was there. So highly recommend that. Other things before we get into these hot topics. I am proud to announce that I finally have reached not only addition to my platinum status on American Airlines, but I've now become an official status where I have Admiral Club status. And I'm super excited about this because for a long time, I've always wanted to have like full access to these airport lounges. But now I have the Admirals Club lounge, experience now. And it's at all these major American airline locations, which I'm excited about. And I have access to them. And, it's free because I'm a member of it. I can bring a guest. And so they have so many amenities like complimentary snacks and food. They have a lot of house drinks. They have made to order specialties. They have personal travel assistance. They even have a shower suites where you can go and take a shower and get yourself together. They have a business center if you want to catch up on work. And you all know, now this might be interesting. Like I used to always be known for not like to go to the airport super early. But now that I have this access, I might actually take my time a little bit and mix and mingle. I don't have to buy snacks and things. And that's the one thing about Mr. Johnson. When we travel, he will go to some airport place and just stock up on snacks and coffee and shit that we don't need. And he will get a bunch of stuff. And it's like now we don't have to do that. We could just go to the Admirals Club and snack in there and relax and have good Wi-Fi and enjoy ourselves before a flight. And we might go a couple of hours early if we don't have anything to do. So I am very excited about this. And like my new flex is going to be if there are people who I might bump into at the airport that, if I'm going on a business trip or something, I might say, hey, be my guest. Come with me to the Admirals Club. Let's catch up. You can be my guest and come with me to the club. Like that might be my new thing now at the airport. But I'm super excited about this because they do have one in Philly. So I am looking forward to it. I don't have an American Express card. I never was a Amex card girl. And I hear about their lounges and things, but I hear they're not as good. But these American Airlines Admiral Clubs, this might be the thing. So, I'm looking forward to trying it out very, very soon. So, that's that. Another thing I want to tell you all about, because people have been talking about my skincare. Have I done anything different compared to what I've done prior? People have been talking like, oh, what's your skincare regimen? I don't know. What could it be? What's my regimen? Has I made changes? And it's funny because, at some point I've always told people, oh, maybe I'll consider it. Maybe I'll do it, what's happening. And it was a little change, that that's funny to me that it was one little change that I did in my skincare regimen that I didn't think anyone was going to pick up on, but I want to recommend because I've done it now for 30 days and I can confirm some things. So you all know that I've been telling you about my like 10-step Korean skincare regimen, whatever. And I talk about oil cleansing. And I'm a big proponent of oil cleansing, right? Well, I have done something. So I take care of my skin twice a day. When I get up in the morning and at night. And, before, I do it in the daytime, I do it in the nighttime. I believe you should take care of your skin twice a day. So in the past, I would do oil cleansing, in the morning or whatever, and then I would do it at night. Well, for those people who are not into oil, they have oily skin, they don't do oil cleansing. Like a lot of you all have told me, I really want to do oil cleansing, but my skin oily, it doesn't work well with oil. How can I, still do that process without having oily skin? Some of you all, I'm going to tell you what it is, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, duh. And some of you all may not know, have heard of this. And so it is called micellar water. Micellar, micellar water. Micellar. This is a gentle, no rinse facial cleanser that removes makeup, dirt, or oil without scrubbing the skin. And so it's basically purified water with moisturizers, mild surfactants, and it's free of alcohol and harsh chemicals. It basically acts as, it's like micelles, which are a collection of molecules that act like they're magnets to draw out impurities. So it's a mild concentration of soap and some other detergent molecules in the water that makes it feel like water, but it's really like a soapy solution. So what's great about this is that it hydrates the skin in a very cool way. It's not as like strong as the oil cleansers are. And so for those who have an oily skin problem, this is the solution. This is the alternative for those to do. Now, what I've done with my program, with my whole regimen, is that to avoid oil cleansing, if you get the really good oil cleansers, it's very pricey, but also it is a lot of labor to do the oil cleansing thing and do it right. So what I've done is in the daytime, I swap out my oil cleanser for this micellar water. And what I've realized that in the daytime, I like to keep it light. I like to keep it hydrated. So my skincare regimen changes a little bit where I swap out my serums. I use a vitamin C serum versus my big Hydro Plump serum that I've been using from Kiehl's. So I use a vitamin C serum that's very light, but also gives my skin a really good glow and brightness. And also the micellar water I like because I do get the impurities off my skin in the daytime, in the morning, but I also don't wear makeup. Let me just put that out there. I don't wear makeup. So this is very good because it's not strong on the skin. Like it's very light. And so let me tell you why this method of madness works. When you get up in the morning, your skin is just like, you woke up. So I like the micellar water because I've already done a very good deep cleansing in the night. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't need to really do oil cleansing as heavy because I already did that at nighttime. So when I wake up in the morning, it's just get the light impurities from the night, any ass, any face or whatever. And so I use that micellar water to do that. And then it gives my skin a hydrating boost from the morning. It keeps the skin hydrated, but also it's a really light way to get that light surface stuff off the skin. Because you haven't done anything yet in the morning. You haven't done anything intense. So it's like the perfect way to revitalize and refresh the face. And then I do the facial wash. Then I do, the toner, and I do the high fruolic acid brew. This is extra shit because I'm a little extra. Then I do my vitamin C serum, which also gives myself, it's like the orange juice for the face in the morning. And then I do a really good, moisturizer, whatever, that has like some sunscreen. And then I use a sunscreen because I'm going to go out for the day. So that's like my regimen very quickly. That is my regimen that I do in the daytime now. And so that's what's giving me that brightness and the hydration. It has been that micellar water, and I also use a vitamin C serum in the day. Now at night, I get a little heavier because at night, I'm using oil cleanser because even though I'm not removing makeup anymore, I'm removing, not makeup, I'm removing the sunscreen. I'm removing that moisturizer. I'm removing all of those heavy things that's on the face. Plus, the face has gotten hit with the sun, the wind, and dust, and everything else. So it's removing debris. So oil cleansing is a good way to take out all of those heavier impurities on the skin. Mineral water is when you wake up, it's a refresher. At night, I don't really need to do too much crazy hydration like that, but I do need to remove, some of that heavy stuff. So that oil cleansing does that for me. But then how I repair is that I use a hydro plumping serum. So that keeps the hydration overnight in lock, in step and key. I also do my toner. I also use a hydrating, moisturizer, but I do different techniques because I'm not putting sunscreen on my face either at night. There's no need. You're at home. So it's a different process, but I've realized that swap out, and I even, in some situations, like incorporate retinol, but not too much. I don't really need it, but sometimes depending on the month, I do a little bit of retinol serum, but I don't need too much of it because I don't. But, if you're older, you might want to incorporate retinol a little bit, depending on your, genes and whatnot. But I use the heavier things like that, creams at night, because, you want to give yourself to maintain it. But it's a process to good skincare. But that is one fun fact. And a lot of people just have noticed, they say, oh, you have this glow. Where's this glow coming from? I'm like, well, isn't my skin good? Like, yeah, it's great, but it just seems like it's even more pristine. That has been what I've done. And I've done it for 30 days. So I feel comfortable recommending it. Now, when I was just experimenting with it, I was like, I don't know. But it's been about a month of it. And I have seen results. And you will have noticed those results. And that's what's giving that glow. So I would say mineral water, outside of swapping the oil cleanse. If you've been following my regimen for years, the new Ernest skincare regimen is we're going to do mineral water in the day. We're going to keep oil cleansing in the night. And we're going to swap out our traditional serum in the daytime with a vitamin C serum, and then there. Now, I'm not a dermatologist. Please, by all means, because I have to put that disclaimer legally, please check with your dermatologist on your skincare regimen and technique. I am not a certified skincare expert. I am not an esthetician. I'm just somebody who's just telling you what my experience and my journey is with skincare products. And if you would like to see for yourself, please do so. But I always recommend for anyone who has skin allergies or any technicalities, go talk to a licensed dermatologist to check in on your skin type and what works for you. Because everybody's skincare regimen works for them, but there are processes for me that I have used. And every product that I recommend are things that are not under the, that are not prescription based. So these are over the counter skincare products that anyone can purchase and experiment on their own. But please read the instructions on those products. So for example, if you have different skincare types, oily, whatever, they recommend a lot of times on these products to take a patch on your skin before you apply it to the face for 24 hours and see how your skin reacts to it. So, you don't want to just go in naked and just do it for the first time because, everybody's skin might react differently. So make sure you do your own research and your own education. I'm just telling you what my experience was and what's giving me my glow. Your glow might require different products. Full disclosure. See how we do that over here on Ernestly Speaking? Some people don't do that and will get your skin fucked up. I don't want to be that person. I don't want y'all going back saying, Ernest said, disclaimer, But again, you might see a glow. You might see a change. You might see something different. So, check it out. And then Tomi Lahren. You all noticed that I made my first appearance on her show this week. Being Fearless with Tomi Lahren, or Tomi Lahren is Fearless is the name of her show. I guess, girl. But nonetheless, it was one of my favorite TV appearances. I was surprised that I'm saying this because I actually got a chance to just have a full-fledged conversation with somebody that clearly has thoughts and opinions about politics that are far different from mine. But I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoyed the discourse. And it was like a really civilized debate and conversation. I've gotten a little combative on shows like Piers Morgan, which that is part of the lure of the show. I was on Piers Morgan this week as well, talking about the Oscars and everything else. But these are the I have found myself, in that media space, which I have come to appreciate through time. But when I look at the world we're in, when I look at the CNNs, when I look at some of the stuff that is happening, that's part of the problem. is that we're not having enough of these types of conversations, and people are just bored, right? MSC, NBC is boring to some people, to a lot of people now. A lot of those shows do feel a little bit like they're just, everybody just agreeing and shaking their head. And then what's interesting is that when you look at CNN, CNN is getting spicy, but that's because they're bringing more mega type voices and personalities on their show, for better or for worse. Some of them are crossing certain lines, but they're bringing those people to try to have it. And that's, but this guy, this recent guy, this Republican mega speaker, his ass is out here getting some crazy bucks. I mean, he's out here one of the highest paid contributors on CNN, and he's not a Democrat or a liberal. He's like a mega defender. And I'm thinking to myself, CNN is telling you who they are. They're telling you who they are time and time again. Scott Jennings is his name. He's a conservative CNN contributor. He is getting a pay increase, even though there have been major layoffs at CNN in recent years. But there's still money for him to keep talking his shit. That's the priorities of the left media. So I'm enjoying being able to go in what many of you all has described as, I just got to say this, but a lot of you all have described, the Lion's Den. I don't consider the Lion's Den, because to go to Lion's Den is to assume that people are getting, that there's lions. I think there's cats. I'm going in the pussy den. No, I'm joking. I'm going in the cat den. I don't really feel like I'm going in the lion's den. I don't find them to be scary at all. I actually find them to be kittens. So I might should call it the kitten's den. But a lot of people have referenced the lion's den, that you're willing to go in these territories and whatever. I don't find them to be scary. I actually find it to be humorous, some of their arguments. And a lot of times what I find with them is that they're bored with just being around other mega people talking that crazy shit. I think Tommy Lauren is bored being on the show with a bunch of people that she agree with, because that everybody's doing that. So she has this thing called Liberal Tuesdays that she calls it. And so that's why I was on the show. And the show is getting distributed through different media outlets like Fox News and other outlets and things. And I have garnered a little bit of a following from some of these individuals who, they're conservative, but they're not conservative crazy. They didn't vote for Trump, but they're still voting for Republicans in statewide races, right? But they find me to have some level of common sense, and they're listening. And I don't necessarily think that my job is to necessarily convert people, but what I do think is that in every space, there should be some type of alternative voice on those platforms. There should not just be, I just don't feel like they should just be able to dominate the media sphere with a bunch of misinformation and bullshit that's not being checked and challenged. If I could put myself in a space where I could be paid, could be, able to be safe in the environment to which I'm speaking at. And what I mean by that is being able to talk and get my points across without being disrespected, aggressively, then I'm down with that. Like, I'm not going to go on certain platforms where folks are going to, just call me out my name, do the most. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going in a place like that, because that's just dangerous. That's just like, there's like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, go to a Trump rally. I'm not ever going to go to a mega rally. I don't think I have interest in going, right? Like, as a journalist, you got to be safe. But you talking about virtual screens, and there's people that are being respectful and getting their points across. They might say some disrespectful things, but they're not being, directly, ad hominem attacks towards me directly. I can exchange in that space, because I'm going to talk some shit that they might find disrespectful. But if we could do that without making personal attacks or anything like that, I can exchange in that dialogue. And I think we should, if we can, right? Those who have the ability, those who are getting paid to have dialogue, right? I'm actually doing a keynote speech in St. Louis this summer, talking about having uncomfortable conversations and dialogue, like how to do that successfully without there being, quote unquote, physical violence or scorned, hurt or whatever, right? There are ways to do that. And sometimes there's not. Sometimes you got to read the room and say, you know what? Going in here is not worth it. And in some cases you can walk in and say, you know what? This is a fair place to be. But we got to be okay with having uncomfortable conversations, and that doesn't mean necessarily with people in the political aisle, maybe with family and friends. A lot of you all let family members and people in your professional network slide on having very fucked up views. And a lot of you all are doing it with people that you all should be checking. Like, these are people that you're already going to be around. You might as well use this opportunity to challenge them. Because if these people are like, oh, this is not a safe space, blah, blah, blah. Well, listen, if you're going to see your cousin or you got that spouse of somebody you're friends with that you're going to always put up with and tolerate elsewise, then you need to lean into some of these conversations with them. And in many ways, I am modeling. People have messaged me, a lot of my listeners and fans and supporters that are just from different places that watch my appearances on these shows. And they said, seeing you have a conversation with Tomi Lahren about some of these issues have given me ways that I can engage a coworker, a family member, somebody in my network around these topics and find a way to do it that does not lead to a screaming match. That I think that is the triumph there. That I'm able to create a space and opportunity for people to be creative and how they have dialogue with other people. So that stuck with me. That stuck with me for sure. And then, speaking of debates and conversations, and also Tomi Lahren, wants me to come back on her show. We'll see. I'm down with it. I mean, it was a very refreshing conversation. I would definitely come back on if given invitation, as long as we keep it civil, and we did. Tommy had we had a good time. You can disagree with people and still get your point across and have it in a respectful way. And if they, here's the thing, that's her show. Now, if you was to ask me, would Tomi Lahren come on my show? But listen, it is cool to be able to, it's been interesting because CNN and MSNBC, they didn't know what to do with the doll. They didn't know what to do with me. Their whole thing was they want mega folks. They want extreme. Or they'll keep what they already have. But they don't want people like me. They don't know what to do with people like me. Because I'm going to be critiquing the left on what the left can improve upon. But at the same time, they want their Democrats to be true blue mascots for the Democratic Party, where they want polarizing opposites. They don't want anybody to admit either side is wrong. But that to me is whack conversation. And that's why I think Tommy Tommy had a hard time with me, because Tommy just could never admit anything wrong with Republicans or Trump or Elon Musk. She could not critique anything about them. But I'm sitting here, she's trying to be, but your party this. I'm like, girl, they got problems they can work on too. But I'm also going to tell you what they can work on. We could agree with Democrats, but let's talk about these Republicans and how there's things they can improve on. Like there's no yes and there's no. It's a yes and. And I think she's not used to that because everybody has to be on one end and another. Most people are not like that. Most Americans are not like that. And that was something that I found interesting in talking to her. And I could tell that I was moving her. I didn't know if the face couldn't move because of, she looks very different. She's upgraded herself. But some of you all that remember Tomi Lahren many, many years ago, because me and Tomi Lahren go back, 10 years back. I was on her show she used to have on with Glenn Beck's station. Remember Glenn Beck? It was called The Blaze, was named the station. But Tomi Lahren used to have a show back in the day. That's when she's coming back in her own way. But I remember when Tomi Lahren was the only girl, before Candace Owens. And she used to go viral for saying crazy shit, all the time. Tomi Lahren once had me on her show back in the day, 10 years ago. I don't even know if she remembers that. But she had me on her show back then. So when I tell you all these relationships, these people knowing each other, I keep telling y'all I'm your fave's fave. Your faves know me. The legendary girls know who I am in this space. Like all of them knew me. Like Mark Lamont Hill, all of them personalities back then. Like I always tell people, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. Yes, I am young, but I have been in this industry at a very young age. I think people wrestle with it. Like, oh, you're young, but then how do you know all this? Because I started young. Like my career, like starts in my 19, 18, I was doing a radio show at 18 years old, and it's been 15 years since. So I've been in the game. Ernestly Speaking as a brand is 15 years old come October. My first ever radio show was in 2010, and it was called Ernestly Speaking, and that's what started this. So we're talking 15 years of Ernestly Speaking. I've done it for nearly half my life. So, like, y'all gotta understand, put some respect on the boss's name. That's all I'm saying. Put some respect on it. You don't get this far in life on an overnight success. Just want to put that out there. I've paid my dues, okay? I started very young. And so Tommy's been in the game for a minute too. But, I knew Tommy when she had her show 10 years ago, whatever. I was on there. So some of these relationships, these people, we go back. But what makes people consistent in the industry is a thing called conviction. Those who are convicted in their beliefs, whether they're wrong or they're right, I think have the most longevity. I think people who have strong convictions of who they are and what they stand on, basically they stand on business, and wherever they stand on, they tend to last longer than people who want to be on trend. I was never trendy. I never jumped on trends. I always was consistent on what my beliefs were. And it just so happens that my beliefs and the world evolved, and I became more palpable to certain audiences, and I became even more polarizing to others. But that level of unique is what led me to being able to maintain relevance and to have the consistency I've had and longevity that I've had. You're talking to somebody who's been in media for 15 years. And I'm saying this at 33 years old. I've been in the game. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the game. Okay? I put in some work. I was writing for Huffington Post in my before I was 21. I think just at 21 probably. Like I've been doing national media for my entire 20s and my 30s. I've put in that work. Y'all be playing. Don't play with it. But before we get to hot topics, I want to give y'all an update. Oxford debate is coming. My Oxford Union debate is coming. I keep saying that, but like each week there's new progress. They just released our group photo, and as you can see, I was the only brother in that picture. The anticipation is building. What I can tell you all is that for the first time in their over 200-year history, at the Oxford Union debate, our debate, which I can now share, was a tie. The audience, the over 200-something, 50-something plus people that was in the union that could vote, it was a tie. That was the first in their history. They've never had a debate that had a tie. And we did it. And I will tell you why that was a big deal is because when I came into that debate, the House itself, the union's position was to cancel council culture. So normally the position of the House will either be a resounding support of what the claim is from the union itself or others to get that room that was mostly white straight men to be entertain the idea of not canceling council culture. To bring it to a tie meant that we did so good. We did so well because we were supposed to be smoked and we were not smoked. We actually brought them to the middle. And to do that in the time that we had with the arguments we had, that was very powerful. And so I didn't want to tease it and say anything yet until it was public, but now I can now make that announcement and make that public. And now I hope that a lot of you all will consider that. I want y'all to be able to consider that. That it is possible, even in this day and age, to move minds and hearts in unique ways. And so when the Oxford Union debate come up, and it's coming up in a couple of weeks, I can't wait. It just builds anticipation. But I want to give you all that sneak peek. So stay tuned. And now to hot topics. So This past week has been a case study in the problem with the Democratic Party. I mean, we could talk about the chaos of Trump, which is being seen to us on a regular basis, right? But what I have realized that makes Trump be able to excel to a certain degree, or at least continue to make inroads in situations and scenarios where he shouldn't, is based on the Democrats' just lack of strategy right now on how to respond. And respond is not verbal. Like, it's not like, oh, who's going to say what at a CNN interview or MSNBC appearance. I'm talking about actual coordinated efforts to subvert um, the onslaught. And to be very clear, I get it, right? Congressional wise, there are situations where they don't have the votes, right, in Congress to necessarily do it. But there are very ways that they can aid the courts, inspire and mobilize those on the ground in the various states and districts they represent to take some level of action, to be cautious, to know what their rights are and know how they can get together and fight back. And to be honest, they did a little better, I would say, around 2017. I feel like there was a better level of coordination and action. And while the type of activist responses that we saw in 2017 were arguably as performative, there was other people who had it in them. I think the defunding of a lot of programs and resources have made it a lot more complicated. But what's frustrating is there are still bodies and people out and about, and what they're doing as a quote unquote response is almost like, well, if you're not going to do it right, there's no need to do it at all, because what you're doing is just not it. And so this is what makes me think about what happened during, Trump's address to Congress. For starters, there was nothing fruitful, thoughtful. It's the typical Trump banter. He spoke way long. He always do. It's long, it's drawn out. But he gets more and more boring. And what I mean by that is that even if you don't agree with Trump, I don't agree with Trump. That doesn't need to say here or there. But I just feel like 5 years ago, 8 years ago, long before, there was a level of rationale or level of organization in Trump's presentation. He just looks disheveled. He looks out of there. And granted, what I'm saying right now does not have no material impact on how severe his actions will be, because he does not run the White House anymore at this point. He's the face, but he's not clearly the one driving the engine. But just, for what it's worth, he is just so out of it there. Like, he's not in control. And you can just sense it, you can see it, but he's not the one steering this ship. He's a huge problem. And I want people not to sleep on him. Don't ever sleep on Trump, because the man still has the keys to everything else that can cause problems. But he himself, just as a character study, is just completely out of it. And yes, I watched the speech. Yes, I listened to what was being said. I was doing other things. I caught up on, my nails and other stuff I had going on. So it wasn't just in vain. I was soaking my feet. I, did all my holistic, all my little things I need to do to keep myself pretty. But it was definitely very boring. And in many times, I kind of went into a conversation and was in a text message chatting with a friend and just was like, oh, snap, he's still talking. And I didn't miss a thing, But I did want to listen. I did want to be able to, in real time, see what was going on. But he wasn't really saying anything. It was a lot of just circular talk. It was just like a concert where one side of the room who was really feeling the artist was making noise. The other side wasn't feeling it. They weren't making noise. Democrats was quiet on one side. Republicans was making noise and clapped for everything the man said. There was, the first, I want to say 20 minutes or so were probably most energy. And then after that, he goes in autopilot where he's just spouting out anything, everything. And there's just no real rhyme or reason. But he's the president, and people knew what they were voting for, because this is no different from his performance during the debate. And even this has gotten worse. But he is just aging, phasing out fast. And I just think, I don't know how this is going to play out in the, but everybody's like, oh, well, he's going to want to go for another 4 years. I just don't, I never say never. I guess at this point, anything is possible. But I don't know. I don't know if this man will be in any real ability to do another 4 years. He cannot constitution. Let's just be clear. But the fear-mongering white people that just like to go, he could do whatever, that don't do anything but fear-monger all day while sitting up in their houses and acting like they are just struggling, even though they're just, sitting around, living their best lives in spite of Trump. I mean, I just, those people just get on my nerves. It's like, you just want to fearmonger all day, and you go do that with your other folks. I can't afford to just fearmonger all day personally. And I find that the art and the sophistication of those who fearmonger and worry, it's almost a performative art where they're still like have money, resources, a house, and they haven't really lost most of their rights. That most of what they're doing is just virtue signaling the performance of worry and fear. And they think that impresses people of color and women and other folks. And not even just women, not all women, but white women do it all the time. And so what I think we have seen, and this is why I'm talking about what's going on with the Democrats in Congress, is that I think that there is a level of check out and no fucks given towards Trump, that people who are actually getting impacted by these decisions don't have leaders that care anymore. I just think people don't care. I think we're trying so hard to say all of these fancy things. I think a lot of these people are just checked out. I think they feel helpless, and I think that they just don't care, because quite frankly, I think there are Democrats who are checked out. I think that Republicans that are in Congress are only selfish to thinking about their own political futures and their own livelihoods, that everyone is just in many ways either checked out or give a fuck about themselves and themselves only. I think that's really what this is. There's this whole conversation of, oh, Democrats can do this. And I guess I started off with that. But I think as I think about it more and more, even while I'm talking about it right now in this podcast, I just don't think they care. I don't think they've really ever cared as much. But I think that there's a level of let it burn that they do have. Because as I've said this before, congressional Democrats, despite all of the performance they put in front of everybody, a lot of them are not as passionate enough about these issues to really put their bodies online, put their careers online to fight for the people. They just don't care that much. And they've accepted loss, and they're looking at themselves like, well, you know what? I still get paid. So until I don't, I'm going to just do the bare minimum. Because to a certain extent, the Democrats that are left, right, in their seats, many of them are not worried about Republicans taking their seats. Some of them. A lot of them are in predominantly Democrat areas where they might get challenged by a Democrat in a primary, possibly, right? But, a lot of them are so drunk off their power that they don't have to do that much to stay in office. And most of the areas they're in aren't going to want to challenge them right now in the midst of everything that's happening, because the argument's going to be, what are you going to do any different from me? What, be an AOC and just like have passionate speeches, but like you can't do anything if you don't have the votes. And this reminds me of Pennsylvania Democrats, like on the state level. The argument used to be, when Democrats have the majority, you're like, okay, what can we do until we have that majority? They got that majority by one person right now. And they've been able to succeed on some things because of that small majority, but they still have it, right? It's the mighty majority, as they will call it. They got one vote that makes all the difference. If everybody show up, they do. And Democrats have been able to do something with that little mighty mini majority that they have. But it is a majority, and they are able to do something with it. And to be honest, congressional Republicans are in the same boat. Now they have a wider majority, a stronger majority, of course, in the Senate right now. But in Congress, it's a few little seats. But they do what they can with it, and they've been able to push through. I do think that if Democrats gave a little bit more of a fuck and did something more, there is a chance, and it will not be because of their hard work, but because of just the public sentiment towards Republicans. There is this thought to me, this strategy that I think might be happening, but no one's going to tell it. But in some sense, maybe the Democrats' plan and play, even though they're not telling the rest of you who act like y'all know politics, but here I am putting some things in perspective, but maybe some of the play could be let the Republicans show you all better than we can tell you. Because there's nothing they really can technically legislatively do to stop some of this shit. I mean, to a certain extent, this is the losing team right now. And in some level, maybe seeing the Republicans continue to fuck up like they are, that honestly, it's not going to make people continue to vote Republican because the Republicans are now eating their own. Literally, they're eating their own. This kind of reminds me slightly of where we were in 2020, where Democrats really didn't put up much of a fight. They did a better job than what we're seeing right now, but it might be too early to tell, right? But I do remember during the first Trump era, Democrats' response was kind of weak, and Republicans were just showing their ass so much. And in the beginning, Republicans did have some pull because of some of those tax cuts, and some people didn't understand that was going to bite people in the ass financially. But when you look at where we got to the pandemic, the Republicans' response to COVID was just so trashy and just so lackluster that folks were just like, nah, they killing everybody. Everybody dying. Folks in Florida was dying. Like, folks was just dying across the board. And it was like, no, we need some common sense. This ain't cute. See, the issue with Trump is that Trump typically does well in situations where he gets a strong windfall of economic strength. He benefited from a lot of the policies that Obama did, that Obama never got to see the fruits of his full labor of a lot of the policies Obama did. It benefited Trump in his first term in ways that he took credit for when it was really Obama, right? And so Trump benefited from a lot of the goodwill that Obama did do in his 2 terms as president, consecutive 2 terms as president. And so Trump benefited from that. And so some of the dumb things Trump did, which he really didn't achieve that much, to be honest, but a lot of people looked at that as, oh, that was good during Trump, but that was really the benefit and the windfall of Obama. The thing with Biden is Biden only had 1 term as president, and he didn't have too much windfall. There was not enough windfall capital to make it a case for anybody that was going to benefit, arguably, because he was navigating the pandemic, he was navigating certain policies. It was just a weaker front. So in many ways, American voters were frustrated by Biden, and they come into an economic situation that was not as propelled in a better light. Some things, like inflation and things, definitely never went to the level to which people feared. And Biden did do that to his credit. I think that a lot of those concerns about recessions and things, that kind of tempered down. A lot of concerns about jobs tempered down. But we never got to really fully acknowledge Biden for that because of so many other issues he had going on in his administration. But the issue is that he didn't really make enough strong windfall that Trump can inherit. And so now Trump is making these policies, and everything that could have been a net positive has been reversed quickly. And so now we're seeing things go up. This whole tariffs conversation, the stock market, I mean, all of these issues is Trump's doing. And so if he ever wanted to blame Biden, he could say, oh, they was bad on Biden, but like, oh, you exasperated Trump. Like, you can literally see the numbers go up and the poll numbers and everything get completely fucked the moment Trump comes in. These last couple of months, you can literally see and measure how disruptive he has done to the market and to the economy. And because of that, I think the Democratic strategy right now is, do we really need to do too much? Because to some degree, doing anything or doing too much will make it look like they're all in this together, that there could be something that can be done. I would actually prefer the Democrats to say, listen, legislative-wise, we really can't do anything. We are tied up. And quite frankly, you the voters got to fix this because this is what you voted for, and I'm sorry, but this is what y'all wanted. You wanted to put this country in a handicap. Like, you really wanted to give Republicans control to do this radical change. This is what Americans had voted for. And so to some extent, it's only going to be the people that's going to be able to fix this. So to some extent, asking for the Democrats to do much is kind of like, you call them again? Why do y'all do this? You call them after you make the fucked up decision. You get instant buyer's remorse, and then you're ready to reverse things. It don't work that way. And so what can the Democrats do? I mean, that's a good question. Well, for starters, they can't do what the hell they did last week. The wearing the pink and the little bingo signs and whatever have you. I don't know. The symbolic gestures just don't matter anymore. I'm sick of it. Safety pins, all this dumbass. I'm wearing this color. Please put that shit away. It's just like we're grown now. Okay, this is Trump 2.0. That shit is just not doing anything. And I just really do think that white people, specifically white women, because white men, what I'll say about white men, good or bad, in between, white men, you know where they stand on shit. They're not passive aggressive. You just know. You know a white supremacist, or you know a person that is trying to be a James Brown, not James Brown, somebody who wants to change, a Jim Brown, right? And I think there are some people, white men, who are out here speaking this shit, doing what they need to do, and really trying to fight the good fight. Some. But then there's those who are very clear that they are racist and they're bigots and they're not trying to soft it. I will say white men are the most consistent when it comes to letting you know how they feel on the issue. And I will say next to black women, like conservative black women, we know who they are and they are loud about it. And those who are not clearly are loud about that too. I think they're the most contrasting on it. Everybody else, I think, just be wishy-washy with it, right? There are some black men that sit around, some, not all, because let me be very clear, researchers, a new report that just came out that showed that whole narrative that black men all went to Trump and all that just wasn't true. That the interesting thing is that Democratic voters that were black men did not move to Trump. What Trump got were black men who were not necessarily engaged prior in the political process. So you can't just automatically assume that those black men were Democrats. See, that was what I've been waiting for research to prove and to show. And so there's this rhetoric that people had about underrepresented communities that, Trump got gains with certain communities. What we're finding out now that the elections are settled and everybody knows who won and lost, what people are starting to see in the data is that it was actually people who hadn't voted before or had not had a political affiliation. So their introduction to electoral politics as first-time voters or as voters who want to first engage was exposed to Biden. And they weren't feeling Biden. And they of course, social media and a lot of misinformation drove a lot of them to also not support Kamala, coupled with misogynoir and sexism. So all of that played a role in these individuals going and giving Trump a shot for the first time compared to those who were longstanding. So this idea that Trump had wooed over black voters and converted them, there was no conversion. They never were Democrats. They didn't come in registered Democrats. A lot of them were either first-time voters, folks that did not vote or decided to vote and then got lured into, MAGA for that voting purpose. But a lot of them are now fucking around, finding out and seeing for themselves, right? But I think that's important to note because a lot of people just thought people just switched. A lot of black voters did not just switch. A lot of us didn't even vote. Like, let's be clear. We're still in these over 80%, 90 margins where 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 voted the right way. So let's be very clear that we're talking like literally potentially 1 out of 10, if that. Like, we're not talking like massive numbers. So there's all this focus on black voters, but I'm still keeping my eyes on that white demographic that just have stayed in spite of all the performative shit that they continue to do on social media. White women, please, now is not the time to virtue signal. Now is not the time to do all these little gestures and shit. We want to see your voting card. We want to see how you are actually canvassing and getting people to vote. Okay? The 2026 midterms is right around the corner. I want to see good-meaning, well-meaning white people get your ass out there and you go canvass. Okay? You go canvass. Because anything outside of canvassing, knocking on doors, and getting people to go to the polls, I don't care. I don't care. Don't tell me who you voted for, because your vote is only one little vote. You're going to have to get everybody in your neighborhood and your suburbs to show up and show out and be uncomfortable. Because if you're not doing that, then, I don't want to hear more fear mongering and shit. And also, let me be very clear, donating to campaigns is not enough anymore. Like, campaign money alone is not making the difference in these races. Kamala had over $1 billion. She had all the money, all this money. That's not doing anything as much. I mean, money matters, but you got to really get boots on the ground. You really got to show up and show out and get out in these neighborhoods and not expect people to do that work. It's too many people pushing that money. Like, there's too many people that is like, you know what? I don't want to canvass, or I don't want to make phone calls. It's I want to get other people to do. You know who changed that was Obama. We was able to elect the first Black president, and a good president compared to a lot of the shit we've had lately. We have been able to have Obama because people gave money, and people, donate. We're not going to get the Obama coalition again, I don't think, in modern time. Who knows? But right now, some people tried that with Kamala. It just didn't happen. But what we do need is that we need people to do more than just give money. Money is just not going to solve the problem. Money helps, but money is not going to heal. Money helps, but money does not heal. Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it, because I think everyone just thinks we just need to put more money. Go donate. And these Democrats, y'all got to stop asking people to just donate money to the party, because we got to know, what are y'all doing with the money? Because you can't keep spending money getting celebrities and people out. Like, when I saw some of the money from Harris's campaign go, I was like, okay, I get y'all had the money, but ching, chinging. Like, what the hell? It's just got to be different. People have to just move differently this time around. And it's going to take some strong mobilization, boots on the ground, some serious canvassing, and some efforts. And honestly, I know people get upset, but what I'm noticing is that everyone says voting doesn't matter, voting is everything, but everything y'all complain about is impacted by votes. So I need us to shut that voting doesn't matter shit down. I don't want to hear anyone say voting is not enough. No, voting is not everything, but voting is a fucking important part of this process. And it's actually more than just 1/3. It's actually about 75%. If the votes ain't there, a lot of shit fall apart. See, that's the problem. People done put false equivalencies out there about these procedures. Everyone's like, protest, vote, and blah, blah, blah. Let me tell y'all something. There's an order, right? If you vote the right way, okay? Let's say that we do right. We vote right, okay? When Obama was president, right, we voted right. Congress, we had all these different mechanisms. You notice the protests weren't as heavy. There were some protests, but they weren't as heavy. They didn't distract our everyday political system, right? Protest was very, very toned down. It was not as aggressive or loud. There were some issues with immigration, right? And then immigration protesters had their right to. But we had little opportunities to move elected officials on issues. At this point, there is not an issue. It's everything. Everything's the problem. It's not just Congress is problematic. No, Congress is the problem. So we're literally protesting on all fronts. We can't even pick one issue to say, improve on this. This man needs to fucking do everything all over again. We got to throw the whole system. There is nothing Trump is doing good right now. Like, everything needs to change. And so this is a different type of fight. So what annoyed me during the campaign cycle is that a lot of people were so focused and fixated on trying to act like, yeah, we're going to vote, but we're going to protest. You're protesting more than you're actually voting. There's a lot of people that were spending more time telling people to boycott this and protest this, but wasn't encouraging anything about voting. The non-committed people, congratulations, you fucked yourselves, because you withheld votes and didn't think, oh, well, maybe we need to let people know when to let that embargo go. You played with the voting system, and granted, that they're not all at fault. But I will say this though, because I do think there's responsibility and influence, that even if the non-committed people themselves did vote or was registered to vote, you created and you promoted voter disengagement. You encouraged that. You encouraged voter fatigue. You played into the mindset where people just stayed the fuck home. So maybe some people didn't vote for Trump, but you know what? A lot of people stayed home. A lot of people just were so disenchanted. And so there was a lot of voter apathy that was fueled by that non-committed stuff. They have a role in it. Either you're influential and you thought you did something, or you didn't. Don't now lower and reduce your impact. Otherwise, you wouldn't have did the shit you did. See, people got to speak on it because there was a lot of that uncommitted vote shit, blah, blah, blah. We're going to hold our votes during primaries. Y'all don't understand that if people don't, the likelihood. So here's some important data that we need to talk about. If a person votes during a primary, the likelihood of them voting in the general election skyrockets. If a person does not vote in the primary election, the likelihood of them voting in the general is strongly reduced. So it's important to get people to vote. I always say all elections, but at least twice a year. We should vote in the primaries and we should vote in the general. If you vote in the primaries, you're more likely to vote in the general than if you don't vote in the primaries and you just have to get people to vote in general. It is a fact. And so when people suppress the vote during the primaries and tell people to withhold their votes in the primaries, the likelihood of people getting amped up to vote during the general was not there. And here's the other thing that people don't consider about the shit around the not voting during primaries crap. There are some people who don't vote in elections often. Like I vote in every election. I even vote in special elections. I vote all the damn time. Okay, I'm just the active voter. But I know a lot of people do not vote until every 4 years, every 2 years. And they say to me, wait, there's an election every year? Absolutely. Like this upcoming primary that we have in Philadelphia coming up. I mean, I know New York is popping right now this summer because they got a big, huge mayoral primary. So people are going to show up to the polls for that. But in Philly, it might feel like a dry season. The only thing we got right now are judicial races and we have the DA's race. But a lot of people are not super ecstatic about this upcoming primary. But, next year they'll be hyped because there'll be the midterms. But then the year after that, they'll probably sleep on that and then show up for something else. So it's like every year there's gap years. Technically, this year is a gap year. A lot of people are just not excited because it's not a midterm or it's not a general election. So last year was a general election. People did. But the problem I'm saying here is that because there's a gap in voting, there are some people that change addresses and don't re-register the vote in their proper address or location. So there are some people who didn't even know I need to re-register to vote because my address has changed, my location has changed, and they didn't do the primary vote. And 9 times out of 10, by the time they thought maybe I could vote on election day, their registration wasn't there, it wasn't correct, it wasn't where it needed to be. So it was just a lot of just nuances to how voter suppression and engagement was being enforced in this election in ways that was not just coming from the Trump side. And there's a lot of factors to consider in that. And I think history cannot repeat itself. So, Democrats in disarray, that's the era that we're in right now. But to be honest, thinking about where we're at, I think the big for me is no more performative gestures. Over that, no more performative gestures. I'm tired of the theater, of everybody. I mean, respectfully, I have to say this, and I'll only say it on this podcast, but I'm just a little over the Jasmine Crockett era of this era of just, I don't know, viral, snappy retorts. I don't know. I'm just not here for the entertainment of it all. The videos, they're not like us. This shit is just corny. It's just corny. And it's just so unserious right now. And everyone will argue, oh, it's spreading awareness. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's the type of political theater that insiders and those already registered to vote are just watching and just engaging with. It's not tapping into newer audiences or newer bases. And if I could do a research report on the virality of social media influencers / politicians, the virality and the impact of them are not that high, y'all. It's not. We've seen this already. We've seen AOC do it. We saw Jamal Bowman do it. Where is he now? Not in Congress. We've seen what's her name? That, Carrie or whatever her name. She was in Minnesota. She lost her seat. And it's a lot of them, the members of the squad that lost their seat. Cori Bush lost her seat. That's what I'm thinking about. Here today, going tomorrow. Or going yesterday. We've already forgotten them. I didn't forgotten names already. But a lot of those members of the squad lost their seats. But you would have thought that on TikTok and on Instagram and everywhere else, they were snapping on social media. They were just making all these points that they were so popular and they're so viral. But here's the issue. You all belong to a district. And I know your district want to see you do more than be a national superstar. They actually want to see you address issues in constituent service and district. And I'm not saying that Jasmine Crockett is not doing that. I'm just saying that I remember some of the critiques around Cori Bush that voters in her area were saying, like, listen, she just was not attending to their needs and their issues in their area. That she was doing a lot of stuff. And I know people will say, oh, it was certain groups and APAC and folks that ran campaigns against her. And though that's true, Jason Bowman, they all had Jamal Bowman, they all had those issues, right? But the problem is that one thing I say about AOC was doing both. She was making sure her district had their needs, and she was also keeping her eyes on the prize and playing nice with certain Democrats and recognizing, like, I'm not trying to get smoked out during this regime. And she's been a little bit more, I think she's been more strategic. She's been wiser. Yes, the Democratic, establishment still is not giving her, the proper respects in certain cases, but she, as a legislator, has been a little bit more strategic in how she's going about it. And I think what Jasmine Crockett is that she's riding this wave, and I feel like it's a personal self-congratulatory grift of like, oh, what, she gonna get a book deal? She'll keep getting TV things. I mean, you could argue that she's, speaking out against Trump and this, that, and the third, but to some degree, it's like the way she's speaking out against him. Like, I just look at Elizabeth Warren, I look at other people. There's just another way to go about this than trying to go viral for antics. I just think we're past that point. And it's just frustrating. I'm tired of all the jokes. I'm tired of the memes. Like, this shit is serious. People are going through it, and nobody wants to hear these shade shots at Elon Musk and that. Like, give people something substantive to move and let that go. Let that go and be the conversation, which brings me to somebody who I got to shout out. I got to shout out my alpha brother, Congressman Green. Congressman Green did something that was, first of all, he's always been a legend politically, but he has definitely stood out to do some major work, to speak out against Trump in a way that one could say, hey, was it performative, whatever. We can all argue and debate those different points. But what I will say specifically about my alpha brother, Al Green, is that he had the courage and conviction to take a stand against President Trump in a very public way during that address. And, he had his grandpa Kane, and he told that man he has no mandate against taking and reducing Medicaid. And I thought to myself, like, look, he got taken out. They took him out. But he did not back down. And they censored him with 10 Democrats who voted with Congress to censor him. Now, those cowards did that because they placated, because they wanted to, reinforce respectability, whatever they want to do. They're scared to lose their seats, whatever. But you know what? He did not care what the punishment was. And first of all, the punishment ain't anything. It was a little slap on the wrist. Like, censor happens to a lot of members of Congress. The shit never really go anywhere. He's not in any real serious trouble. It's literally you did, don't do that. That was very, very bad. Like, no one gives a fuck. I mean, listen, you got a man that's had several convictions. This man's been indicted over 30 times. I'm talking about Trump. This man is a convicted felon. This man has been impeached twice. Like, at this point, infractions, censures, like, who gives a fuck? Like, seriously. Like, and the fact that, the Speaker of the House, Johnson, does this, it's like, but when it was on the other side, when they want to do it towards, Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them, right, and Bohart, everybody was like, oh, freedom of speech, and I'm a patriot, I'm a liberal. I need the Democrats to go down like that. Where is our Marjorie Taylor Greene? I guess that's Jasmine Crockett, I suppose. Who's our Lauren Bohart? Like, who are these people? I guess we could have a few of them, I suppose. But a little bit more mature, though. I don't know. But, like, we just not, I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. But the fact that Al Green, he took a stand. But what was strong about what he did was that he did an act that was defiant, that drew news attention. And what he did that was really strong, and I don't think people pay much attention, is that he was able to get the message across to the American people that Trump does not have a mandate to mess with Medicaid. And so it's important to, in opportunities, that alpha man said, look, all of these little signs, fuck all that. I'm telling this man in his face, you have no mandate to do this. And it made everybody go back and say, well, whoa, 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 what does the president have a mandate on? That's the kind of conversation. If you're going to do an act of defiance, bring it to an actual cause. Get people's attention on specific things. And that stood out to me. This entire week, I have been thinking to myself, that's the real conversation. The man does not have a mandate to do this shit. And so when we're over here pulling our hair and, oh, Trump can do that, where's the fucking mandate? And that is the challenge that Congress needs to enact on, is that there needs to be a push and there needs to be a conversation. And so you know who's been the best lately in holding Trump accountable? Other conservatives. Which brings me to an interesting character that we've talked about in this podcast for seasons. Justice Amy Coney Barrett. The MAGA world is going against her. According to NBC News, MAGA world turns against Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She is a Trump-appointed justice. She's been shifting the court to the right, but she's been pissing off some people because she's been voting against some of Donald Trump's priorities. She's been consistently, interesting enough, doing it, and a lot of people are mad at her. One of these frustrations have had is that she has been a part of some recent high-profile 5-4 decisions. There's 9 people in the Supreme Court, but she's been a part of the 5-4 decisions. Now, there are 6 conservatives. So, you got, Chief Justice Roberts, John Roberts, right? But people know Justice Roberts is he wasn't appointed by Trump. So he doesn't really they're not expecting it. But these Trump appointees, she's a Trump appointee. And, Brett Kavanaugh going down the ship with him, right? He riding out with Trump, okay? But Amy Coney Barrett, she is not in certain situations. Now let's be clear. She ain't no friend to the left, okay? So let's not be acting like this is the good girl now. But we got to acknowledge the facts. People been calling her DEI judge. They're going at the white women. We knew this was going to happen. They showing pictures of her with her adopted Black children. She's a white woman. She's married to a white man. I think she's Catholic, but she has adopted children that I think maybe African. But she's been doing some interesting stuff. So a good example of this was her U.S. aid vote following a decision in January when the court split. It was 5-4, rejected Trump's request to block a sentencing hearing in his criminal hush money case in New York. A lot of people was pissed off. Chief Justice John Roberts and Barrett joined the 3 liberal judges, okay? 2, to make it a 5-4 split. The rest of her conservatives got outnumbered. They're coming after her. And so she has been submitted as a conservative Supreme, she cemented a conservative Supreme Court, but she seems to be a very cautious individual that has resisted the far right flank. That's what they're saying. A lot of her votes recently has been doing some of that, and a lot of people are getting pissed off. She's been bucking at Trump's decisions, and a lot of people are calling out. See, the problem, though, I would say, though, is that Supreme Court justices will give some, will lose some in some cases. And I think that that's some of the frustrations that people are having with her, like trying to figure out where does she stand. But I do think it's a problem when you think that, I guess that MAGA world, they're not invested in democracy, the Constitution, or any of that. They are just literally obsessing over Trump. They don't even care about the Republican Party. There is the Republican Party, which is dead at this point, and there is Trump's MAGA regime, which is what is happening. So they're not even giving a fuck about conservative values. I feel like we're in a different world right now where conservative is not even a thing anymore. I think that it is pretty much, whatever is left of the conservative party might be whatever is of Democrat moderates. I think Democrat moderates are like the conservatives y'all think that still exists. These people on the other side are just fascists, baby. I know that might sound, but they just are. They don't have no regard for the Constitution, because if they did, they wouldn't elect Trump. Like they had several options they could have picked during not the midterms, but during the primaries for Republicans. They could have picked, there was DeSantis. I don't know what DeSantis was. Y'all swore up and down DeSantis was going to be worse than Trump. Child, that was a lie. I think we can now just agree that was a lie. Tim Scott never had a chance, but like there were other people that y'all could have went up for, and they chose Trump for a reason. So that's just where we are. That's where we are, and I think what Al Green did, Congressman Al Green, is it's bringing it back in the forefront. Does this man have a mandate? Democrats need to be asking the right questions and really pushing on the actual issues and letting the Supreme Court, looks like Justice Roberts and Barrett is like, look, they might keep moving with the liberals to push at some of this shit. There's a little silver lining, There might be opportunity in some cases, but see, I don't hold my breath too much because, with gay marriage up in the air at this point, I'm not giving these people too much praise. But what I'm saying is that there seems to be an opportunity to push back and resist to some degree. And so, again, people just need to be paying attention to all of the things happening right now, because they're fighting. They're fighting. And that's just what's happening. I could talk about Elon Musk, but at this point, no one knows what Elon Musk is doing. I know there's been clashes with him and Marco Rubio, who is now Secretary of State, which is okay. But there's just no. Every week there's something new, and there to some degree, I measure what's a big trend that's worthy of my time to investigate and what's an antic that is just draining, there's just flooding the zone, as they say. And so I just don't waste too much time talking about Elon Musk all the way. He hasn't done anything that has stood out enough this week to require me to give an update. I think that might change because there are some things that are circling around. There is, what I will say, I guess, is that there is the Republican, mega Trump administration, a lot of his team is starting to really get tired of Musk. They're like, why is he here? Who the fuck is he? Like there is a level of them getting frustrated with Musk's actions because it's contradicting things that they're trying to do. And at some point, everyone's trying to figure out who's running this country. And I think people have really underestimated how crazy it is that Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, literally has control over the White House. That literally he has pretty much bought himself a seat. And he's doing what rich people have always dreamed to do. And now we see it in action. That normally rich people stay out of government, right? They're in politics. Rich folks are always going to have their money in politics from the left and the right. But never have seen in recent history a super rich person be this entrenched. I would argue since Trump, the last billionaire to be this entrenched like this is Trump. And so it makes you wonder, does Elon Musk want to run for president? Are we spending too much time talking about J.D. Vance that we're not paying attention that Elon Musk is actually trying to maybe consider or audition to run for president of the United States? And I think that's the conversation that we really need to be looking at this point, because this country is dumb enough to potentially consider him. I think we're spending too much time talking about J.D. Vance, when honestly, we might be in a position where Elon Musk might actually turn around and say, you know what, I want to be president. And I know people are going to say, well, isn't he from South Africa, blah, blah, blah. Listen, child, they will change rules around the legislation. But the real question to me is does this man want to be president of the United States? Does he want to actually be president? Because at this point, that might be that. I don't know. He's got enough money that he can pay for his own campaign. He does not need any money from anybody to support this crazy endeavor. The only people that's going to be able to stop him would be the voters. I sense that the relationship between Musk and Trump is not going to thrive by the end. I think they're coming on too strong, and knowing Trump, if you look at how Trump is, he likes to be the center of attention. I think to a certain degree, he is not liking there's a part of him that I feel like is not going to sit back and let Musk keep stealing the show. His ego's not going to allow it. And I think what it's going to take is his own party. See, the Democrats are teasing that right now. Everybody's being like, oh, Trump is, Elon is Trump's, whatever. They're saying all that stuff. But I feel like if the mega crowd or the Republican base, the massive conservative mega base, begin to look at Elon as their king and start to push Trump aside, that will be the moment where Trump will shut Elon out. But it may be too late. We don't know. But there is an interesting thing happening, right? Because he runs X. There is Truth Social. But Trump really, the Twitter base that Elon has created allows him to dictate it in a way that Trump does not have control over. I'm just saying that there is a situation where I could see them duking it out. Right now, it's super light. There's a little temperature degree heat, like a little bit of it, but it could be a mirage. But I don't know. I'm just following that relationship. I'm following the way that the mega supporters, how they're responding to Elon, how Trump in this dynamic. And little JD Vance, my goodness, JD is just, I just feel like he's invisible. I feel like he has been completely wiped out and he just is in over his head right now. I mean, he has no chance of being president, in my opinion. I mean, one could say, don't never say never, but I just don't see him rising. I mean, he's almost giving Mike Pence vibes. He is so invisible to all what's happening. And no one wants the man who used to work for Trump. Like, I just feel like, to be honest, vice presidents in general, this country seems like they're getting over the idea of a vice president stepping into the role of president. I think people are just wanting people to go straight towards the presidency. I think the days of vice presidents as stepping stone to be president is just not hot right now. I mean, it's been a while. Like, if you think about it, like you look at it, what happened with Al Gore, only Biden was able to make that turnaround, but Biden had to have a gap in between and whatnot to come back. But even Biden proves that people are, even with all that presidential experience, it didn't make Biden a good president per se, no shade. And I think that, unfortunately, Kamala Harris had that same problem. But there's talk now that she might be potentially considering running for governor. And she's got to the end of the summer, reports say, that before she decides whether she wants to run the governor of California or she wants to throw her hat in and run for president down the road in 2028. I'm going to keep this very simple. Don't. I'm sorry. It's okay. I think we've learned. I think Harris should not run for president again. I think we should have learned with Hillary. Hillary tried to go again. The first time she didn't make it past the primary. The second time she ended up getting a nomination. I feel personally that if you get the nomination and you run and you lose and you have not won, if we look at the American political system, in my opinion, you don't get to come back. The only reason why, I mean, there was different things with Nixon. One could argue, but I will say that Nixon situation was a little different. I'm going back to history. But I just feel like when I think about Trump literally was the leader of his party and maintained the leader of his party even after he lost the second go around. But we got to remember, he was already president before. So there was somewhat of a arguable mandate that he maintained his power within the party. It does not seem like Kamala Harris right now wants to still remain the leader of the party in spite of Trump. Like, she's not doing what Trump did when Trump lost. Trump stayed as the leader of the Republican Party, even though he lost. Right now, it seems like no one knows who's the leader of the party, of the Democratic Party is right now. Like, we don't know who the face is, who the voice is. And it seems like this is an opportunity for a new person to emerge or somebody who's a governor too. Now, I would say I'm looking at Wes Moore and some people are looking at Josh Shapiro, but I'm seeing them two right now as being one of the most consistent voices right now. I don't see it for Jasmine Crockett. I wish y'all stop entertaining the idea for her to be House. Cut it out, okay? Her role, and I talked to a good friend about this, about politics. There's like really three types of politicians. There are strong legislators, There are messengers and there are strategists. And what I mean by that is that there are people who are strategists. They walk across the aisle, they whip the votes, they get people on both sides. That was how Joe Biden was in Congress. Not Congress, yeah, in the Senate. In the Senate. Joe Biden was good at whipping the votes, working across the aisle. He was the strategist. Then you have legislators, people who create legislation. Like they are really about that, right? And I think that is somebody like a Senator Elizabeth Warren, where she just will be all about policy. She is a wonk. And arguably somebody can say she may not be necessarily presidential. I mean, there were people who liked her, but she was more of the policy legislative person. She's focused on creating the legislation and she's all about that. And then you have what I call the messengers. And the messengers are people who, honestly, they don't really do that much on legislation and they're not really that good strategically, but they're good to get the message out in the streets. And so I think of people like AOC, and I'm not saying that she don't do other things, but I just feel like she's more of a messenger. Jasmine Crockett is a messenger. She's the cheerleader. She's the people that get people fired up. She's the person that tries to get the message out to the media. So that is their role. I think sometimes, I even think about Malcolm King out. That man ain't done any serious legislation in the state house, right? But people could argue he's a messenger. He gets to go on TV, he gets to go to rallies, and he'll talk, right? So those are the three people is. Personally, I think the best people that win election in office are the strategists with a little bit of legislative in them. Messengers, some messengers win, could run, but I think strategists are the best people to be president out of the three types of legislators, because the strategist is the person that knows how to work across the aisle. Okay. They're also the person that understands how to read the room. And they're also the person that does not want to be the center of attention. They understand that, it's about getting shit done. I think a lot of people are fixated on trying to get messengers to be presidents. And there are messengers who've been presidents. But when I think about people like Bill Clinton was a strategist. He has some swagger. And to be a strategist, you do have to have a little bit of swag, because you got to have some swag to persuade people, right? Like I think about Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi was a strategist. Now, she didn't need to be president or anything like that. But that's somebody who knew how to work them aisles and get some shit done. John McCain was not my favorite, of course, but the late John McCain was a strategist in the Senate. He knew how to work those aisles and get some things done, which is why he was a strong presidential candidate. He lost to Obama, but he was somebody that did it. Now, Obama, I would say he embodied all three very well. Obama was a great messenger. Obama was a great legislator. Like, he knew policy, but he was also a great strategist. But more so, I think he afforded himself the ability that he had a good combination of both. A lot of our legislators right now are not good at all three. He was a triple threat, I would say Obama was. He understood policy. And Obama also was a little bit strategic to a certain extent, as far as he could go as a black man in the Senate. But he was a great messenger. And I think he had the strengths of all three that made him good. When you look at Philadelphia City Council, when you look around, ask yourself, who's the messenger? Who's a strategist and who's a legislator? Think about who those three roles are in politics. Figure out who those players are. And that's going to tell you who should be where they need to be down the road in politics. Just a fun fact. Think about that. Just going to put that out there. So moving along, ABC did major new layoffs. There's been a lot of major layoffs across the country, as we all have been observing and watching. But one major thing that I thought about was that CNN has been doing some serious layoffs for a while now. But one thing that stood out to me was that they had one of their very own mega contributors, CNN contributor, get all that money. And I thought that was very telling that Scott Jennings, who is basically a Trump supporter, who has been on CNN making numerous appearances, got a noticeable bump in pay raise over at CNN. I want to just reiterate once again, this is why I can't with CNN. This is why when you all tell me, oh, Ernest, you should go on CNN, I look at you all like, what the fuck? Because this is the type of stuff that they do. Like they're not interested in bringing nuanced, progressive voices to the table. They're so obsessed with trying to, win over certain people and and whatever. And it's just not even doing anything for their ratings. Like they're like at the bottom at this point. It's Fox News, it's MSNBC, and it's CNN. And they're just doing whatever they can to try to hold on tight. It's just their moves are just trash. They have fallen off. They've lost their direction. And I'm reminded all the time that, this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with. And that's, that's just a standout. So I always tell people that, it's time to be strategic. It's time to be thoughtful. And this is one of those moments. So put that, just put that in the back of your mind. Put that in your mind, for sure. So that's why I don't go and see and waste my time. I do want to talk about local politics. There is no Republican officially. The Republican Party in Philadelphia has announced that they're not running or pushing anybody to run for DA. So we will either have Krasner or Pat Dugan for that role. That's where we're at with that. What I do want to say is that I had a viral moment. I had a couple of people notice, on social media. I've made some arguments on Instagram. I did a really good, black box screen, and I think that it got a lot of people talking, in ways that, that they should have, but this is important, We're seeing a very interesting political trend happening right now in local politics that is mirroring national. And I think one of those things that frustrate me is that when I came to Philly, Philadelphia used to be about giving everybody the heat. Everybody the heat. And we don't see that happening enough at this point. And it's an observation I've made. The current political state has put that in perspective for me. And I want to get some points across about it. So this weekend, I talked about covering local politics and just basically how it's become a trend where we're seeing people really, it's frustrating. You all know this year I broke 2 major stories. And I think that this is a case study on those 2 major stories on where I have gotten to this conclusion. So the first one was the 76ers arena deal flopping. I think that should have been a moment for moderates, specifically within the Democratic Party, to look inward and question how steadfast they let the private sector dictate how they govern. This arena deal is a big deal. It is a big deal that I think is getting swept under the rug because there's a lot of Democrats in city council and in Philadelphia that don't want to acknowledge that they have egg on their face. And what I think they're not acknowledging, and I think this is a bigger story, is that the reason why that collapse, right? That absolute total collapse of the arena is a very important story. And it's so much in depth than what it's been given. Because I think, for starters, you had a council that really rolled out the red carpet for a private entity, the private sector. They literally rolled out the red carpet. They cut red tape. They said, look, you all we're going to prioritize you for the last 3 months. We're going to put all of our attention, all of our reasons. We're going to have multiple hearings. We're going to give you all of this red carpet because that's what they wanted, right? The 76ers people, right? They wanted, those billionaires and those developers, they wanted the city on its knees to give them the mandate to create that arena. And they wanted the city to stop everything to make this a priority so they could be able to build this in time before that contract expired in South Philly. That's the reason why everything was expedited, because they wanted to make sure they had enough time to build the arena so that the contract would be, when the contract expired, they would be ready to move out. Like, this was all based on their wants. And this city did not question them, did not challenge them. They just said, okay, whatever you want, master, let's do whatever you want. We'll do whatever you need us to do. And they literally sat there and let them do that. And interesting enough, there was many hearings where community said, this is a bad idea.
don't do this. This is not a good idea. They worked out a deal that was trash. They didn't even they wanted to do nearly $100 million in community benefits. They only was able to get it to around roughly 60 something after a $10 million added bonus. Like they did not even hit the goals of the deal. The deal, even according to their own standards and metric, wasn't even sufficient enough to what they wanted to argue for. And the thing was, the 76ers place and those billionaires and developers called their bluff. Was like, we ain't gonna go that far. And y'all still gonna vote for it. And they still voted for it. And for all of that, those developers turned around, those billionaires turned around and made a deal with Comcast and fucked them all up. And what that vote did for us is it showed us in real time who would compromise over the people for what the unions and the billionaires want, and who will stand on business and have faith and be courageous with integrity and vote against it. We saw 5 courageous people do that. Some, the Working Families Party and some Democrats within. They said, I don't care. Throw a person against me, primary me. I don't give a fuck. I don't agree with this. And they stood on business in spite of retaliation, in spite of threats and harassment from certain people in political spaces. But when my story broke and I was able to tell everybody, this ain't happening, the egg on everybody's face in that city council, not those who voted no, but the mayor, but everybody involved had egg on their face because they got played by the system. That should have been a deeper conversation. Nobody wants to talk about it because everybody wants to just move on, because the shame of it would make people have to question everything they do. Like, who really controls city council? Who really runs city council? We have never figured out that question. And it's been 3 months and everybody just want to sweep under the rug. And I just thought to myself, that was just disappointing to me, because I felt like Democrats that I know that are those who are not the most extreme progressives, but like those who are, middle ground, whatever, right? They could have at least said, y'all, this ain't it. But they said nothing. It's been quiet. They've been talking about it's a win-win for the city. Even though they misled people and made people think that South Philly was tired. It was dry. Nobody wants South Philly anymore. That was the narrative they created. But to see them flip-flop like this is very telling. And I also think about, what I'm going to talk about on the progressive side. However you feel about that Larry Krasner situation that involved his appearance at the 52nd Ward meet and greet situation with a convicted child abuser, child molester, who used to be a ward leader, right? That whole situation, no matter how you feel about it, it deserves more interrogation. It do. It deserves more interrogation. And I tell people this all the time. Folks saying they didn't know because the name Steve Jones is such a common name, it's just not holding up to me, considering that his prosecutor successfully prosecuted this guy 2 trials. After 2 trials where several judges recused themselves due to a political conflict of interest. Either Krasner was lying or not paying attention at what's going on in his office. Because I keep telling people that the fact that those judges recused themselves because of a political conflict of interest, that should have been a red flag. But you know what? Progressives are swept under the rug. They don't want to talk about it. They didn't try to make false equivalencies. They've tried to make irrelevant, conflations and shit. They don't want to address it. It's like nobody wants to talk about it. It's like everybody wants to sweep under the rug because people have a lot of shame about it. And ego on both sides. And this is what we're realizing, is that in many ways, we've entered the standom of Philly politics on both sides. That what stood out to me is the rationale is that it's not whether or not people would vote for the person. Like, I know people that told me, like, they don't care nothing about this situation. They're going to still vote for Krasner. Okay, that's fine. Like, my job is not to tell you who to vote for or not to vote for. I mean, I would like to give you the information to make you make your own decisions. But people said to me they didn't care if Krasner was oddly getting endorsed by Rochelle Bilal, or that he might have in poor taste went to that 52nd Ward event. They were still supporting him, and they even said they wasn't going to call him out. And it was the latter part that stood out to me. that now we've gotten to a point where you can agree with somebody, but you still won't call them out on something that you think is wrong. And I'm talking about in politics, right? So I come from the mindset that some of the people that I would vote for, or I think are doing good, or I support a lot of their policy decisions, I can publicly say, yes, good job on this issue, great job on this policy. But I'll also say I don't think this is a good idea. Like, listen, I, agree with the mayor on some of the stuff that she's doing. I think that the mayor has done a good job addressing crime in the city. You cannot take that from her. Crime has went down, and she picked a very good police commissioner that has, in many ways, been a lot better than what we previously had in Danielle Outlaw. I will never criticize her on that, right? But when it came to the arena situation, I didn't agree. I understood her position and why she felt like she had to do it, right? And I understand in many ways, she was damned if she do, she damned if she don't. But when I look at certain people at city council, I don't understand how they vote on some things. I'll give you a good example. Isaiah Thomas. I think that driving equality is a good bill. Like, it has proven to have some results. And he recently did a press conference where he, talked about how it's been reducing the amount of Black people being stopped in their cars, right? So that is, that's notable, right? That's a good thing. I'm not going to argue about that. However, I find him very contradictory because you voted in favor of the ski mask ban that we all know data does not prove it to be effective in stopping any of that, right? Like, you voted for it and you knew damn well that there was no actual legislative mandate that proved that banning those quote unquote ski masks was going to do anything to reduce crime. That, to be honest, it was just a performative virtue signaling to try to appeal to elder voters and a couple of respectable folks in these districts that don't like it. Like, it was just not a smart, savvy way to address crime or to stop the racial profiling of Black men. But you voted for it. And so politicians will even contradict their own stances. You're a guy about criminal justice reform. You sat up there and you saw young Black men get up there and tell their story about it. And you sat up there and you told them to take them Johns off. I was there in council when he literally said that. And I just thought to myself, that is not becoming for someone who's trying to address criminal justice reform. Like, what a stupid piece of legislation that, guess what, didn't really do anything. Because guess what? Nobody wears ski masks anymore. So to put the fucking ban in place was pointless. And it was not because people stopped wearing them because, oh my God, we're scared of the ban. It was because it was always a fucking fad and trend that was going to fade out. You all just made it way more than what it needed to be and just could let it fade out. Like, what's fading? Sagging. Oh, but people want to have a sagging ban. Guys, fashion trends. Guys don't even wear baggy pants as much like they used to. Most guys are wearing slim cut or boot cut at this point. No one's sagging like they used to. But my goodness, you waste resources and legislation on stupid shit like that. And that was just dumb. Isaiah calls himself a progressive, but you turn around and you voted for the 76ers arena, knowing how harmful it was going to be. Having people in your own base of support tell you what was wrong. But you did whatever unions say because you are not actually on a progressive agenda. You're on whatever Ryan Boyer tells you to do and whatever Chris Woods used to tell you to do. Like, let's be clear. You don't move based on your own actual conviction. You move on what actual sectors tell you to vote and do, like many other elected officials. And so when you start to find that elected officials, I'm not saying, and you know what? It's just that there's politicians, right? I'm not saying that sometimes elected officials or politicians don't take a chance to sometimes move. But when you start doing things that go against the core of your actual reason why you got elected, the very base that elect you for certain seats, and you start to go against that core group to do it, it becomes, well, who are you for? What do you stand for? What do you stand for? I know people give Senator Anthony Hardy Williams a hard time. But one thing I can respect about Anthony Hardy Williams and what I have admired about that man is that whether he is wrong or right or whatever, that what he personally believes is what he votes for. He will take unpopular votes that his party or other people may or may not agree with him on. But if he personally believes in it and thinks it is what it needs to happen, he's going to take that vote. And we just need more leaders to have conviction, to stand for something. And I just feel like a lot of these people we're at a place now where there is just no buck and challenge. It's almost like there should have been, like, look, I see cities where there are some Republicans. And I wonder if we had a little bit more, if we had some Republicans in city council, would that make Democrats be a little bit more considerate and thoughtful about what they're voting for? But then one argues, why have Republicans? We have flip-floppy Democrats to fuck the city over. All this Democratic control, and this city is not doing that great. You know, it just, I don't know. I feel like everybody's like, oh, a Democratic utopia makes things better. You could give the Democrats a majority of anything and it will still fail. And so I just think we're at a point where we need to just be challenging everybody. I'm never going to be whatever this true blue shit is. And that doesn't mean that I'm looking at the Republicans. I don't see the Republicans. I don't see the GOP. I don't vote for Republicans. I don't entertain them. I don't see them. But just because I don't see them does not mean that I can sit back and just let Democrats do whatever they want to do and not hold them accountable. I hold political power accountable. I don't give a fuck what the color is. I don't give a fuck what the position is. When I was on Tommy Lauren's show, she kept being like, "You're a party." I said, "Girl, that's not my party." Because if that was my party, baby, if it was really my party, we wouldn't be having these conversations. At the end of the day, as a black voter, none of these parties own me. I am going to make very pragmatic decisions if I have to at the polls. But when I have a chance to say no to certain people on the ballot and I can vote for a better candidate, I will. And that's what I do. I will. I will vote for better Democrats. I will challenge Democratic Party. If a third party has a fighting chance like we've seen with Working Families Party, I will do what I will do. I will vote for what makes sense and what can win that will do better. And I think some people just give certain Democrats a pass. I live in a district where Janie Blackwell was over city council. And she was representing my district, my councilman district. We was tired of the same old, and we voted for Jamie Gauthier. And Jamie Gauthier has been doing a good job in council. She has been voting on issues that people care. She didn't support the ski mask ban. She was against the 76ers arena. She's made tough decisions, but she stood on principle about what she believes in, and I can respect that. We just need more people to step out and stand on business, to be honest. So before I get to Ask Ernest, people have been messaging me. Yes, I've seen a situation at Southern University involving that young black man who was a candidate to be a member of Omega Phi Psi Fraternity Incorporated, the Qs, and it looks like he was killed, right? He was murdered. It looks like it was a cover-up. Initially, the pledge class, the hazing class, clearly there's some hazing going on. They said that he showed up home and he collapsed due to some, situation. And then we find out later on through reports that actually that wasn't how he died, and that he was punched severely, and that he actually was killed in the warehouse. And that the very people who called him potential would have been his fraternity brothers, actually lied and tried to cover up his actual death. That is not brotherhood. That is not becoming. And as a result of that, Southern University has suspended Greek life across the board. There'll be no Greek life intake this entire spring. Everything is shutting down. Not just the Qs, the alphas, the zetas, the AKAs. This is a HBCU. All of those Greek life programs that they might have had lines or intake process, it's all shut down. There is no intake process right now coming because of this incident. And people have asked me, what do I think about it, or what can I say? And I've seen some people in the Divine Nine, say things like, oh, if you're not in Divine Nine, you shouldn't speak on this. That's bullshit, okay? When a black person dies, it's our community's concern. You don't get to do, regardless of whatever fraternity, sorority group you're a part of, you don't get to control. When you step out of line, the people step the fuck in. When you cross that line, that becomes, it goes up. In any fraternity, any Greek or any space, right? Everybody has their initiation process. And let me be very clear. One, that should not include hazing, abuse, or anything of that nature. I don't support that. I don't stand for that. And people in Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, that is a non hazing fraternity. If people are doing it, they should be called out. They get suspended. They lose their letters. They can get in serious trouble because it's not only trouble that is legal trouble, but it's also trouble that can also happen within a university setting or whatnot. I am somebody who is risk management certified. I am certified to participate in intake processes within fraternity and Greek culture. If there is any sign of hazing of any type, I am to report it. I am to notify the proper people. Okay? Let me tell you why. Because when that stuff happens, organizations get lawsuits. And let me be very clear, hazing is not just happening in black fraternity sorority. So white people listening, shut up. Y'all know y'all haze people too. And let me tell y'all something. Football teams haze, bands haze, theater groups haze, everybody's hazing. When I was in student government at Penn, I went through a hazing process. I didn't know it was hazing at the time. I just thought, oh, this is what white people do to get in groups. But I realized in my freshman year that I was being hazed to be a part of a student government group. And I wasn't a part of Greek life when I was in college. I wasn't a part of a Panhellenic group per se. And so I had realized I was being hazed initiated. But see, back then, or at least in my experience, it was not violent. It wasn't the type of hazing, like it was like pranks and things. I mean, arguably that's not okay, right? We could all acknowledge that, right? But what I'm recognizing was that it wasn't this type of shit where you out here hitting people, beating people with like killing, like people are out here going to hospitals. There was none of that going on, to be clear. It was silly stuff. But like, it wasn't like that, right? But the hazing culture has been around forever. And I think the thing that I'm at right now, specifically for Black Greek life, to those who are a part of it, whether you're a sorority or fraternity, I want to say this because I do listen, I'm never silent on anything. We're at a time where they're trying to defund HBCUs. They're trying to kill any diverse organizations across the spectrum, nonprofit, service groups, you name it. This type of shit, this hazing shit, gives them the easy, breezy, beautiful racist mandate to shut it all down. And don't go, oh, well, white people do it too. We are not them. They are not like us. Clearly, white supremacy does not care what white people do compared to what black people do. You keep doing shit like this, and all of this will fall. It will all fall. And no one will feel sorry for it. Because how I personally feel is that for this to happen, that chapter should be suspended for eternity. Or for a long period of time, at least, in my opinion. They should face some serious, because you cannot tell me that those boys did that and that was not a custom. That's a culture. That's a process. That's a pattern of behavior. And that trauma. And let me tell you something, because I'm going to say some things without saying everything, right? I do understand discretion is key. And I'm not talking about hazing, because there's no discretion on hazing. But what I will tell you is that there have been people in various institutions I'm a part of that went through hazing. Hazing does not make these people pay dues nationally. Hazing does not make these people become better, quote unquote, brothers once they cross. Hazing does not make people be more active and engaged, to be honest. Okay? In many ways, it creates social problems within circles, because then people who were hazed and those who were not, those who got hit and those who were not, they form a dick measuring contest, to be quite frank, where they do the whole, well, who did this and who got this? And that's a lot of stuff that happens at the undergraduate level, to be clear. Because when you get to grad level, right, people start that shit. They do the whole, well, who this and who that, who paper, who this, who that. And what we find through time is the relationships that you build with these brothers. Because regardless of who getting what, who did whatever, when you need a job, who you gonna call? When you need referrals, when you need somebody to babysit your kids, when you need somebody to help, mentor a family member, or you need somebody to come to your school to volunteer for something with your students, no one's playing the game of who got hit, who didn't get hit. Because a brother's a brother. And I think we get so caught up in some of that shit that some of that does pervade, right? But what I've realized is that through time, especially with young people that I've seen in other groups, that have went through a hazing situation that they did not disclose, that they never spoke to, you can tell that when they get in the level of emotional trauma and distress, that they become very insular. They stay within only one segment or group of people, that they only are with others, you know? When I was in college, this is all I knew in college. I saw this stuff play out, which is why, to be honest, it was a blessing in many ways that I did not do Greek life like that when I was in undergrad. Because I think what I've seen, and I'm going to keep it 100. I'm an alpha now. I went to Penn, okay? It's documented that there were situations in which that chapter on Penn's campus got suspended for hazing. That there were periods of time where there were no Greek life on campus for certain fraternities, including the one that I'm a part of, that there were situations where, there were some, brothers who got out of line that literally did hazing. And and we got to talk about it, right? What I have found is that when I look at all of the Greek guys that were in undergrad with me, I'm an alpha. I'm a life member. Y'all know my 1 year anniversary, my alpha versary is this month. It will be 1 year as an alpha. Okay? And you all have seen the beauty and the wonders it has done for me, for my sense of, community. It has been a beautiful experience. It has been great. I have really connected with Black men in a different way, to do service, to educate, to mentor, to do a lot for young people, to do stuff for community. Like, I'm always working on a community service project, an opportunity to do fellowship, to support. Like, it's been a very beautiful experience. I will tell you that some of those men who I went to college with, that I have talked to, they are not actively involved. They don't pay national dues. They're not engaged. And a lot of it is because of the bullshit that happened in undergrad, the experiences they had when they were in college, that by the time they graduated and became into the adult world and they went into the workforce, a lot of them were just so burnt out from the politics and the pettiness and the shit that happened in college. I have a very controversial opinion. And listen, I might change my mind on this, but right now my heart is telling me to say, based on my experience in this, 1 year in, and maybe I got more years to go, but I just feel like, at least for Black fraternity sororities, I don't know if so much of the energy spent on getting people to do it in college is necessarily the ideal experience. Like, I think for me, I'm so happy I didn't do it in college. As a queer person, as a lot of things, I'm just so happy, because the likelihood of hazing on the college level is so much higher. Because when you get into adult and you do alumni and whatever, there's just a different type of energy. I'm not going to get into discretion matters, but like, just look at me and just know how I get down. And that's all I'm going to say. There's just certain ways that you ain't going to talk to me. 18-year-old Ernest is not 33-year-old Ernest. Let's just put it that way. There's just certain things that happen to young people that young people do and accept that grown folks just don't. I'm just going to leave it at that. But what I will say is that when these college kids participate in this hazing stuff, there's lawsuits, multi-million-dollar settlements. And you know who have to pay for that shit? The grown folks, the ones who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, the dues and stuff they pay. They have to be the ones that keep these organizations sustained. And so could you imagine a situation where some knucklehead in college decides that they're going to do some hazing stuff and pledge stuff, and somebody gets hurt or tragically passes away? Then you know what happens to the entire organization? They have to deal with criminal investigations. They have to deal with lawsuits, settlements. They got to deal with all this other shit because of something that somebody did on the college campus. And so as a older member, okay, I'm not an old head, but, as a big brother, I'm telling all these college kids, stop it. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And honestly, if it continues, there is some groups, I won't speak names, but I know there are some other groups that are saying, do they even want to continue to do the Greek stuff on the college level if it's going to create so much liability? So this is a reckoning. What happened to this young man is tragic. Like, I feel for his family. I feel for that community, his friends, that college that has to deal with this national nightmare, all because a bunch of dumbasses decided that it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And we're doing this all I'm saying is that there is a target on Black organizations across the board. We don't need to be creating another excuse or reason to lose our legacy, our history, and our institutions based on a couple of people that decide to keep doing this shit. And for what? What kind of masculinity you got to prove? What does it mean? Because like I will tell you, and what I will say to y'all is that I've noticed that a lot of these folks on the college level, when they cross over into the alumni, national, groups, they don't show up the same. They don't volunteer as much. They don't give money. They don't stay active as much. They don't be a part of a alumni graduate chapter. They don't do any of the other stuff. They just check out. They either hang out with their line brothers and the people that's close to them that they cross with, but they don't engage with the larger world of any of these groups. And so for me, I just feel like, I don't know, is this something that adults, actual grown, mature adults, working professionals, is this something more slated for them compared to college students? It is a question. And I think right now, I don't know if young people are ready for this. I just hear too many stories. I just hear too much experiences. And I'm just thinking to myself, liability. And I've gotten training, right, to deal with or confront. Like, I'm risk management. So I got proper training certifications that allows me to aid and provide on any type of Greek intake process that's pertaining to my organization I'm a part of. But I have the proper education, the training to educate and inform people like, hey, that is not okay. Like, reinforcing those things, like, anti-hazing. And I don't give a fuck what people think about all this. Oh, you ain't a real man. Or my bank account is grown. These taxes I pay is grown. These bills I pay is grown. This career I have is grown. And you getting your ass beat. How is that helping any causes or anything to move the country, the culture forward? I'm sorry. How is that helping anything or anybody? So I'm too grown to play these games. And I think that too many people, if that's all you have to your experience in any Greek institution, is what happened to you back in yada yada wonder year. If that's your biggest memory, then God bless your heart. I pity you if that's your best experience. Because my experience has been bigger than that. And it continues to blossom and grow because that's what this was about. It was about fellowship. It was about service. It was about building community. It was about setting a good example. I mean, I was a legacy that Dr. King and Thurgood Marshall and even Congressman Al Green represent: courage and integrity. That's what this shit is about. All this other stuff is for the birds. And so that's how I feel about it. A lot of you had asked me, oh no, not just because Ernest is an alpha, he don't got opinions on hazing and crossing. Oh, he ain't said, oh no, I have thoughts. I just wanted to watch this stuff play out because I did follow the investigation. I followed what's going on over there, even though this does not impact alpha directly. Anytime any group of the Divine Nine fraternities, or anytime any of them get impacted by stuff like this, it does reflect on the rest of us sometimes, unfortunately, because that's how racism is, that every time something happens to one Black institution, everybody look at everybody that's Black. I mean, it is what it is. But I want to be very clear that I don't support hazing and I don't support that kind of shit. And if I see any of that happening with my eyes, what's going to happen? Because I'm not about to be complicit. I'm not about to be in a lawsuit being like, oh, Mr. Owens was in the room and didn't say, no. Hell no. I let people know, if you don't want to get a case, if you don't get reported, don't have the shit happen. I don't want to see it. No, if I hear about it, I'm saying something. If I know about it, I'm saying something. If I smell it, I'm saying something. I don't play that. Because all it takes is what happened to that young man in Southern University. All it takes is one punch, one unnecessary hit, one situation, one bad slip, and somebody dies, somebody gets injured, whatever the case happens, and it all gets shut down. And not everybody gets to suffer. Everybody gets impacted by it. Y'all not about to mess up my opportunity, my experience with your foolishness. Go do that shit somewhere else. Don't do that shit over here. And we got to say that more. We can't keep turning a blind eye. We can't keep silencing people. We can't keep telling people, oh, you're not in this, so you can't speak up. Fuck that. A black boy was murdered. He was killed. They intentionally chose to hit him. Did they intentionally try to kill him? I mean, when you're hitting somebody like that and you're doing that, what is the intended case? What is the goal here? What are we trying to achieve here? Fuck them. They've been arrested. Several of them. And I want justice to be swift. You took somebody's life and you took them away from an opportunity to be a part. You misrepresented that organization. You literally abused and traumatized. And that is not acceptable. And that is not the rules. And that's not how any of it goes down. And so you deserve everything. They deserve everything that's coming to them for what they decide to do. And to cover it up. How cowardly. Like, you don't have no virtue. It's not like you was like, you said, you know what? This is our ritual. This is what we stand for, blah, blah, blah. No, you was cowards. You hid it. So no, I don't have nothing nice to say about any of this. I don't support any of it. And so I wanted to be clear about it. But, shameless plug to college people and folks, consider doing some other things. Consider doing some other ways. There's other ways to be involved. I just want to put that out there. But moving along. So this week's Ask Ernest, a lot of you all had questions about me calling out the term partner. Yeah, I'm not crazy about the term partner. I know a lot of you all have been using it. And let me be clear about this. So a lot of the straights have hijacked the term partner. This was a term that was once only used by, queer people because we were just, we didn't, I guess some people want to use gender neutral language. So in situations where, I guess it will be awkward or socially awkward. I mean, again, this is not my words. This is what I've heard. I guess the logic was when gay people were in certain settings, and I guess maybe if they weren't married or whatever the case was, they would just say my partner. And that was kind of normalized in media where it was this type of rhetoric where, oh, so-and-so and his partner, blah, blah, blah. Like they would use that language because nobody wanted to say husband. Nobody wanted to say wife with lesbian couples or husband with gay couples. People didn't want to say boyfriend. So they would just always use the word partner. And that was just and that's still to this day a socially acceptable term in mainstream media and society. So people never like to, they just never used it. So, okay, that was what was used in conversation related to gay people. Straight people, I think, through time has tried to adjust and adapt that and say, oh, my partner, this, that, and the third. And it makes you have the dog was like, partner? Because you just don't know how they're using it, right? Sometimes it's law partner, sometimes it's business partner. But straight people have been trying to use this now, and it's confusing people. And so I saw a very viral video clip where a gay guy had saw another guy, a gay guy. They thought they were gay. The guy says, "Oh yeah, my partner," and the guy's like, "Oh wow, you're gay too." And they thought there was a connection, like, "Oh, we're not the only gays in the room." And then they referred to a woman, and they were like, "Wait, what?" And so they were just saying, like, straight people just be hijacking language, like they just do. And it's weird because they created the language. So let me get to the history of this. It really in mainstream because I look at GLAAD, I look at this. The whole reason why partner became mainstream was because it was a way to make it socially okay or normalize a way for making straight people comfortable acknowledging gay couples. Because there were some people that just, I guess, felt like it would be odd or awkward to say husband to another man or wife to another woman. Like somehow that was just like a weird thing to do or awkward. So partner was supposed to be a way to soften that. Also making it easy for, straight men to tell other men. If a man was somebody, oh, that's your partner. So they didn't say husband to another man because it would be so awkward. And so that was normalized in society, and people have just adapted that language. Let me tell y'all something. No, y'all listen to Ernestly speaking. You notice I've never said my partner. Fuck out of here. That's my husband, and that is what it is. Before it was my husband, it was my fiance. Before my fiance, it was my boyfriend. I'm not playing these games. I'm not going to coddle to language because, see, this is how shit gets confusing. Because now straight people want to do it. And let me be very clear, okay? Some of the straights are playing games because some of y'all be out here and y'all do be in complicated relationships, situationships. And I've met a couple people like that where they'll say, oh, that's my partner. And I'm like, okay, so, okay. Are y'all married? No. Then why are you saying partner? Why are you not saying girlfriend or whatever? Straight people love to play. You know what's funny? All of this quote unquote inclusive language is actually becoming more beneficial to straight people that are in situationships than it is to queer people. It really is. Because honestly, we don't really play all these games when it comes to that kind of language, when it comes to relationships. It's like, I mean, listen, y'all have significant other on lock. Y'all don't even use significant other anymore. Significant other used to be the term y'all used to use because y'all didn't want to use husband or whatever. It'd be on my significant other. Child, listen, whatever, tomato, I guess. Whatever y'all want to do. I guess for, you know what it is? Now, this is what I'll say. I have heard from the straights, the older straights, that you all don't like to use boyfriend and girlfriend when y'all are older. Now, I wanted to say something really crass, but I'm going to just be respectful and keep it cute and keep it neutral for this segment because I could get real crass and say, let me be quiet. But what I want to say about that is that a lot of older folks, and when I mean older, people who I guess are past the phase that they think that it's weird to say boyfriend, girlfriend. So I hear people say that saying boyfriend, girlfriend in your 20s is okay, but once you get in your 30s, mid 30s, it gets a little awkward, I guess, or when you get in your 40s, it gets a little uncomfortable to say boyfriend. Now, I want to be a little snappy and say, well, here's the thing. If you're in a space in your life where that's all you want is boyfriend, girlfriend relationships at that age, and you don't have no intentions on being married, then why do you have shame about saying it? Own your truth. If you're non-committal and you don't want to be in that type of long-term relationship, then own the title, baby. What's wrong with that? But I guess some people say, look, I don't want to say I got a boyfriend. What I look like in my 40s and 50s having a boyfriend for 5-10 years. I mean, that's a good question, but here's the thing. Whether you say boyfriend and significant other, it's not marital spouse. If you're worried about people judging you based on it, I mean, if you're worried about judgment, here's my thing. Who gives a fuck? But listen, I'm going to stick with your logic. If you don't got a ring on that finger, nobody cares if you call them a special friend or a significant other because it's not husband, it's not wife. But the problem is that a lot of folks in society are beginning to replace the word husband and wife with these other words. So now we don't know where anybody stand. The straights done fucked it up. So it's a gag for me because I said, look, I spent all my life wanting to be somebody's husband. And let me be very clear. Throughout my life, I didn't really know, who I would be a husband to when I was super, super young. Like when I was 10, whatever, I didn't know, I was going to be a husband or whatever. I just knew that throughout my life, I wanted to be married. And I knew that if I was going to be married, I was going to be a husband to somebody. And I just want to be clear that men can have husbands and women can have wives while also being a wife as well. And I think that's for whatever reason, y'all still struggle with this shit when y'all be like, well, who's the man, who's the woman? Motherfucker, it's two men. Okay? It's two. There's no who's the this, who's the that. I used to get so annoyed when I was younger hearing people say that shit. But even now, right? Like, let's normalize that reality. Ask people how they want to be addressed. And I mean that. Okay? Because I dealt with that my entire adulthood. Dating, especially being with Mr. Johnson. Like when we was first together, people, the old church days would be funny. Oh, that's Ernest. That's him and his friend. Friend. But this is not my friend. We're not going to confuse y'all. Y'all not going to be going in the kitchen whispering and being like, they look too good. Listen, they think listen, there's been this new, okay, so this is so random, but I just have to say this. So my husband has been going out and, those glasses he got, those new glasses. Now people say he favors Kirk Franklin. I don't know if I see it. Maybe like if Kirk Franklin was like, I don't know, 30 years younger, I suppose. Maybe there could be something. But now that's what they're saying. They say he looks like a younger version or something, like he favors Kirk Franklin. It's just so random. The church ladies are into him. But I say all this to say, look, that stealth life like I was talking about earlier in the podcast. But I say all this to say that there has become a new trend where, you know, there's older women that just will say friend. And it's like, no, this is not my friend. This is my boyfriend. And I had a woman one time at one point in time literally say out loud, friend. Like they held on to the friend title. And that's irking me. You know what I'm saying? That's irking me. Like we're still calling people friends when you know what it is. And it's just disrespectful. But that used to be back in the day, not back in the day, but a couple years ago when we were not married. But then once I got into fiance mode in marriage, it did change because at that point people couldn't be saying friend when it was like, okay, that's the, but when anytime we was in a relationship that was not fiance or marriage, it was always friend to people. Now in my family, that was not how my family got down. But when I went to other little gatherings, political events and things, I would go up and I'd say, oh, this is my boyfriend, Barry, or whatever. And they would just go, boyfriend? They would just, it was almost like their mind couldn't compute it. So they would just go, they would just compute, it would just be a different compute. It would just go, friend. They would just stay friend. They just, the boyfriend, they just, the malfunctioning, system malfunctioning, the homophobia gadgets didn't got in their head, and it was fucking up their digital computation of like, two men, boyfriend, with no woman present, my mind, I can't, like, it's almost like they couldn't, it was like an AI machine that could not process it. Chat GPT, I kept saying boyfriend, it was like friend, two men, friend. Like that was how they would process it. But now, because of that, I refuse to let people play with the whole friend, partner, no, husband. And so I feel like sometimes words do matter. And you get to own how you want to be identified. So for example, we talk about pronouns, right? There are people that go by he, her, he, him, she, her, they, them, or any, right? And there are some people, right, who are specific to say, hey, my pronouns are, they, them, right? And you say they, you refer to them as them or they, right? There are some situations where people might reduce them and say, what's going on? And I would say that you could change minds by really switching it up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what you mean? Like, what you mean? What you talking about? What I mean by this is that I think in certain situations, you have to, in the name of trying to normalize and all this, you do take away the integrity of what people actually find as countercultural. Don't reduce it to partner. How come when we think about, we don't say the president and his partner, Melania Trump. We say the president and his wife. I actually enjoy the title as husband. I think it's weird to say, I think that there are things that hold significant meaning, right? We don't say, oh, we don't want to call this woman a mother. She's just a caregiver. If she wants to say she's a mother, let her have that right. If she wants to identify by her gender and say, I'm a woman. Like, I think people have lost sight of what it meant to have inclusive language. Inclusive language was a way to expand options for people to define themselves and identify themselves. But also it meant that if other people chooses to define themselves as see fit, you also respect that as well. So I think we're in an interesting place where everybody wants to just try to generalize and neutralize. No, respect people's title. If that person wants to say they're Mrs. So-and-so, they're Mrs. So-and-so. I've recognized that with city council. Recently, there have been general language where everyone goes by council member this, council member that. And I was talking to one woman, and I'll never forget, Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. She's legendary. She's no longer city council now. She's retired. But I remember one time I said, oh, council member, blah, blah, blah. And she just was like, no, I go by Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. And I said, well, why do you, I hear you. She said, because there was a time where in city council, women were not able to be in seats. And I think it's important that I take pride as a woman to be in elected office in these city council chambers. And so I like to be referred to as Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. And I interviewed her, and this was when she was in office. And I said to myself, moving forward, I was going to address people by how they wanted their titles addressed. That it was not okay to just simply call them council member so-and-so because that was the standard norm across the area, right? But if certain people wanted to go by councilwoman respectfully or councilman, I will do that. And so I think we got to respect that. Like there is sometimes for some people, there's a meaning, there's a personhood, there is a cultural semblance and respect that they have for what they want. Some people could argue, should it matter? Does these things matter? For some people it do. And so for me, I actually do like to be referred to as a husband, or that is my husband. And my husband likes to be referred to as saying vice versa. Don't just say partner. Don't just, oh, that's their friend or partner. No. Respect. Now, some others in the community might go by partner, but listen and let people define themselves and identify themselves, and then you respect that. So I don't just make assumptions on how people want to. There are some people that like to use the doctor title, and there's some people that don't. There's some people that's like, do not walk around calling me Dr. So-and-so, so-and-so every 5 seconds. Just call me so-and-so. Even when I grew up as a Southern gentleman, and I used to say Miss so-and-so to every woman. I say, oh, hi, Miss so. They say, oh, you don't got to call me Miss. Just call me Amy. Just call me whatever. But I let people tell me how to address them. I just don't, automatically. Now, in professional life, if I'm dealing with certain professors, I will say Dr. So-and-so every time until they tell me, okay, you don't got to call me that. You can just simply call me whatever. But I respect how people want to be addressed, And listen, you don't got to get it right the first time. We all learn. But once you learn, you get it right. So I will never call Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown council member. I will always call her councilwoman. Now, there's some people like Jamie Gauthier who goes by council member. She's not picky, but there's some that are very big on that. They that title means something to them. And so I think it's important for us to just respect that. And I just wanted to just say that. I thought that just meant something to say. Because sometimes, I find myself in these positions where someone's like, oh, where's your partner? I'm like, partner? I don't know. It just don't sound right to me. I don't know. For me, it doesn't. Some of y'all might be having partners, wives, significant others. Some of y'all, let me be quiet. There's one person I know in particular. I ain't gonna name no names, but there's one guy I know that I'm cool with, and he refers his partner as his partner, his wife is his wife, his girlfriend is his girlfriend, and his significant other is his significant other. And let me just be very clear. All of the individuals I have named are aware of each other, and that is a very polyamorous relationship, and I'm not judging. But let me just say, words matter. Okay? Let me just say that. Some of y'all know that. The dude be like, oh, that's my girl. This my side John. Y'all don't act like y'all don't know that these words mean something. We can't just be assuming some things. But I digress. So this week with movies, movies are taking, there's a big buzz. People are watching Anora. A lot of y'all didn't watch Anora now that it won Best Picture. A lot of y'all, are hyped right now about it, about the movie. And I think that it is, you all have mixed thoughts. A lot of y'all thought the movie was overrated, which I agree with. A lot of y'all thought the movie was very different and insightful and spicy, which is true. But I've been interested in seeing how you all have been reacting to the movie Nora and how y'all felt ever since it swept at the Oscars last Sunday. Now people are beginning to predict what is up for Oscars in 2026. It's a little too early. I don't want to get y'all too ramped up. Y'all know we follow the Oscars very closely when we get to the fall. But there's this movie called Kiss of a Spider Woman that is inspired by that Broadway musical and movie of the same name in that book. And Jennifer Lopez is in it, and people are really acting like Jennifer Lopez might actually go for an Oscar. The Michael Jackson biopic with Coleman Domingo, he just seems to be on top of the world. He is playing Joe Jackson, and people are beginning to speculate, could he have a chance for an Oscar if the biopic ends up coming out this year? There's speculation that post-production is taking so much that the movie may not even come out in time for a 2025 release, but we'll see. There's also another big movie coming out that has Jeremy Allen White playing Bruce Springsteen. And I'm like, Jeremy Allen White from The Bear playing Bruce Springsteen in a movie? Interesting. But there's a lot of buzz. There's some movies coming out that people are, there's a movie The Rock is in that apparently is supposed to be potentially an Oscar play. But there's a lot of movies that play, a lot of Oscar buzzy movies. Regina Hall's name has come up in the conversation. She's in a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and some other big heavy hitters. So we just staying tuned. Oscars Watch 2026 is already in contention. So we're going to stay tuned for that. Music. Let me just give a shout out to Lady Gaga. Her new album, Mayhem, is outstanding. Rolling Stones gave it 4 stars. It's been getting lots of great reviews. Gaga, like Gaga. The Gaga that we all knew and loved in the early 2010s. That Gaga is back, but reloaded, but mindful. I mean, Gaga has been in the business for over 15 years at this point. She's nearly 20 years in the game. But this album was a return to form. And what I like about it is that there's a lot of songs on the album. There is no skips. I mean, almost every song off the album is a banger. It's almost like a bunch of singles. The album is very cohesive. The album is very fun. The album is very focused. Like, it's just so good. And it's mature Gaga. She's not too grotesque, but she's also not silly. Like, there's a nice medium of edge to it. There's a soft rockness to it. There's a great synth popness to it. And it doesn't sound like anything out now, but it also reminds us that a lot of the artists that have come up in the past, I want to say, 8 years, have been on the Gaga playbook. And it's no longer a remix of Madonna. She's definitely not Madonna. Gaga is her own monster. And this album reminds us of why she is that girl and when she was that girl, because she's had a lot of hit and misses in recent years. And she's been trying, there's a lot of pretentiousness with Gaga over the years. And that's always annoyed me with her, where she has these moments where she's like really good, but then she takes herself a little too seriously. And then she just does the fucking most and the music never hits, right? But this is Gaga letting go. And shout out to her fiance, because he's working on this album and he must be a real Gaga stan. He must have been a monster before he became the fiance, because he executively produced this album, and it's obvious that he sat with her and was like, girl, you need to go to the drawing board. We need to go back to what you do. There's songs that have a feel of Bad Romance without feeling like a copycat. There's a song on there called Popular Favorite Celebrity, I think Popular Celebrity, that I think is a standout on the album. And it reminds me of Paparazzi. There's a lot of songs off this album that has really good remembrances of her past work, but it doesn't sound like a copycat. Like, there's some artists where I feel like they keep making the same song trying to get the same results. Yes, I'm talking about Nicki Minaj. Yes, I'm talking about Chris Brown, where it's almost like they keep making the same song. Like, even, like, I like Dua Lipa, but I feel like Dua Lipa has been trying to make a bunch of songs that sound almost like Don't Stop Now to try to get back on those charts. At some point, you gotta let go of the shtick and just evolve. Gaga has a really fun, creative way with this album of giving you really reminiscent sounds and feels without sounding dated and very nostalgic. It's very forward-pushing music, but it's also very core identity to who she is. And so I really like this album. I definitely think it is a contender for Album of the Year at the Grammys. I mean, clearly more albums are coming out this year, but we do, ladies and gentlemen, have our first contender for Album of the Year. And so far, front runner right now in the conversation is Mayhem by Lady Gaga. She did her big one. I have nothing but good things to say. Now, moving with TV, there's 2 big moments on TV that I want to talk about. I think I want to start with the more lighter thing first. Meghan Markle is on Netflix. She has a new show, cooking show, whatever. She's not Meghan Markle. She's Meghan Sussex. She wants to let people know, apparently. But she's got this TV series that she's doing, and everyone's trashing it. Okay, I have some thoughts. So, for starters, I struggle with this. Maybe I should start with my positive affirmations about Meghan Markle, or Meghan Sussex. I'm sorry, the Duchess of Sussex. I'll start with the good things before I get into the bad. I want to say that I think that Meghan Markle gets an unfair amount of just hate that I'm like, look, you don't have to like what she do, but I feel like it's so disproportionate to the point where you would think that Meghan Markle was out here doing American Idol for the 25th season when the show should be canceled by now. You would think that she was out here, killing people, saying crazy shit like Bill Maher, or like really, doing some really fucked up things. She's not. But the level of immediate backlash she gets, it's almost like it's pre-scripted. Like, the show got a trailer the trailer alone had people writing whole think pieces about how bad the show was, and the show hadn't even come out. And so there's almost like a built-in hate machine for Meghan Markle that makes me not even want to like join that level of critique, because I just feel like it's just almost like this woman can just easily smell flowers for 30 seconds and it becomes a total meltdown. And you know, as somebody who was in that, I'm not Meghan Markle and I'm not on her level. Let me be clear with that level of attention. But I empathize with her to a certain degree, because I have seen people in my career where I can open my mouth and say good morning, and there is a bunch of people somewhere on either Reddit or the internet or Twitter or somewhere else on the internet that got something to say about how I said good morning. Oh, that was a little sassy. I can't believe he says good morning that way. Oh my goodness, why good morning? That is so problematic. Why not great morning? What does he mean by morning? Is he meaning morning on the death? Like today is the day that so-and-so died. And I just think there are people that will literally overanalyze and overthink every fucking thing I say or do. And, you know, look, as somebody who is a high-profile black man, according to Piers Morgan, he literally called me a high-profile black man. As a high-profile black man, a high-profile influential black person, how he said it, that was from Piers Morgan's mouth. You know, there are casualties that come with this work. And that is just the fact that as a high-profile black man, that is a casualty, that there are going to be people that's going to overanalyze and overthink every single thing that I do. And so that is a part of it. And so to some degree, you can't even change people's minds sometimes. Like there are people that just hate you just for existing. They hate you because they're not you. They hate you because they wish they could be you. They hate you because you have things they wish you did not have. Like there's just a lot of, they hate you because they hate themselves. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people are doing it. And all those examples, baby, I'm not the reason, because I don't know you. And there's people that will have parasocial relations with you where they will want you to do things because that's what they want you to do. That has nothing to do with you. Like they will have personal opinions about your relationship, your health, you know, the way you dress, the nails you have. And this is at some point you just have to be like, yeah, this is literally beneath me. Like this is not this level of engagement in my personal life is way too much. I need you to go touch grass. I need you to go, you know, do something with yourself. I need you to be invested in yourself, because the recommendations you're giving me, I'm looking at you like, well, listen, can you consider your wardrobe? Can you wear better clothes? You always wear Tefar bags. Can you like mix it up with your bags? Somebody said to me in my comments, in my DMs one time. I said, well, what kind of bags are you wearing? Go wear those. I'm going to wear my Telfar because that's what the fuck I like to wear. Thank you. Yeah, y'all, people said that. Somebody said one time they had recognition of my fashion, like, you're always like wearing blazers. Like, I just want you to just experiment a little bit, mix it up. Like, I see a man, he does it, like, I like a blazer. I like a blazer. I like a blazer. I like a sexy blazer. Y'all gonna see me in a two-piece. That's my signature style. That's my style. I'm gonna always rock a blazer. The end. Somebody one time said, well, I don't know. I think men doing nails, that's starting to fade out. Like, maybe you shouldn't do sparkles. Maybe you should just do solid colors. What? What, you thought I'd do this because it's a trend? No. Bitch, I am the trend. The trendsetter. Other people can fall off whatever they want to fall off. I was talking to my brother about this the other day about like, he's a Gen Zer. You know, his birthday's coming up this week. He's about to be 22. But he was just telling me like how these TikTok trends, the trends keep changing all the time. And it's at a point where he doesn't even give a fuck about trends anymore, because people will do it like the girls who did the scrunchies and the cheetah print pants. Like people do a trend and they fall out of style like quickly. And that's because of that fast casual fashion trend where people are doing fast fashion in these sweatshops where they're just buying clothes and then they fall out to the point where people can't afford the trends anymore. Look, I'm so happy that millennials be at their own drum. I can't sit up here and be playing these type of games. So yeah, I don't care about the trends like that. But I say all this to say that I just want to start off by saying that I do think that Meghan Markle just gets a disproportionate amount of hate because of racism, because of sexism, because of everything else. And quite frankly, I just think it's stupid. honestly, her cooking show. Listen, if a black woman wants to create a cooking show, a lifestyle show, it's not that many women of color that get platforms to do that. I think what she's doing is in a fun way is disrupting the industry, because in many ways we never gave Martha Stewart that kind of heat. It's like they're always expecting Meghan Markle to be the bastion of hope and have to be everything for everybody on everything. And I'm just like, y'all, like, there is a space and place for luxury and leisure. And to be quite honest, she is a princess. I mean, what other princess have y'all given this pressure to? Like, everybody wants Meghan Markle to be all the things. But at the same time, y'all tell her to stay out the kingdom and stay out of England. Y'all done ran this woman out of the royal Buckingham's palace. And now she's in California living her best life. And then y'all just don't like her. Just say y'all don't like her and shut the fuck up. Like, just say you don't like Meghan Markle. For whatever reason. I don't care. But just say you don't like her. So anything she do, you're just not going to like. And that's okay. Maybe that's the fucking think piece. Just say you don't like Meghan Markle. Just say that you don't like the fact that a black woman got this political, opportunity. She's in this lap of royalty. She gets to live a life that a lot of you all wish y'all could live. That she gets to have a soft life that y'all don't like, that y'all wish y'all could live, and you don't like her for it. Just say that. Okay. The end. And we don't even gotta have no more think pieces about how you're trying to make your hateration something. Sometimes you just don't like people. Sometimes you just don't care for them. I just sometimes don't like certain people. I'm just like not a fan. Do I have all the reasons why? No. Sometimes I don't find them appealing. Like, I'll say this. I'm not crazy about Doechii. Doechii's okay. But I'm not a crazy stan. Not my cup of tea. Do I gotta bash her all day and talk about her? No. I just ignore. I just support the things I like. Unless I feel like this person is so problematic that they can cause a problem, right? Which we'll get to that in a minute. But I just be like, let live and let be, and for all the shit talk that people have about Meghan Markle's show, the show is doing well on Netflix. Everybody's watching it. They're hate watching it, I guess. Okay. Now, my personal thought about the show, I don't know. It's just kind of boring to me personally. And I mean, to be honest, I didn't expect it not to be. I just think it's kind of like, okay, I mean, I don't know. She could spice up a little bit. I don't know. I got to watch more shows. I don't know, episodes. I don't know. I don't find it necessarily entertaining, but that's just on a personal taste level. But again, do I need to write a review and say it's horrible and she's the worst thing on TV? Like, there's people I tell them, I need to get after watching that, I need to get a brain surgery. Like, that's like, come on. Like, that's just stupid. Like, I lost mindless brain cells watching that. I'm like, shut up. You don't watch Trump. Like, look, one could argue following Trump's press conferences is losing brain cells, but somebody's got to do the job, right? And to all the TV critics and reviewers that paid, y'all get paid to give reviews. Okay? And to those who claim they don't like Meghan Markle, why do y'all still watch it? If you don't like her, what do you expect? Like, I don't need to listen to Tory Lanez's new album to know it's going to be trash. And some of y'all might tell me, objectively, the album might be good. I don't give a fuck. I don't like Tory Lanez. Anything he do is trash. Same thing about Chris Brown. I don't care about no residuals. I don't like Chris Brown. I don't support him, so I don't give a fuck what album he put out. It's simple. It's simple like that for me. Which brings me to Shannon Sharpe. Y'all keep trying to make Shannon Sharpe a thing. And we got to let Shannon Sharpe go. You guys get so hype about Shannon Sharpe. This little interview he did with Amber Rose, like, who cares? I did not watch it. I don't care to watch it. And I'm not watching anything that Shannon Sharpe produces. I think that he does not have the chops. He's not a journalist. He's talking about he's a Barbara Walters. Barbara who? Walters where? Like, we got to stop. We got to stop. We really got to stop. We got to put some respect on the greats. He's not doing Barbara Walters' work. Hell, he's not doing Diane Sawyer work. He is not doing Wendy Williams' work. He's not doing Oprah work. He's not doing none of those women's work, okay? Stop putting him in that conversation. That man sits down there and sounds like Uncle Ben's Tom's Cabin, and y'all sit up there and y'all just go up for him. He barely asks questions. His conversation interview skills are dry. He just lets a bunch of has-been washed-up celebrities sit up there and talk for 3 hours and rant about shit that we don't give a fuck about anymore. Like, I don't care what Amber Rose has to say. You supported Trump. You played the mega game. You talked your ass to get that check. Fuck you. We don't care. Go over there to Mega and stay the fuck there. And Shannon Sharp is just a bait. He's just basically a clout chaser. You went from being a Hall of Famer to a clout chasing old head that just is looking for relevance. It's giving me a life crisis. Go get a real hobby. Go be a philanthropist. Go donate. Go support kids. Go do some real meaningful work rather than do this dumbass shit that no one cares about. It's just, it's annoying. And that's all I have to say on that. Now, speaking of annoying things and dumb things, let's talk about the biggest reality TV show moment I've seen in a long time. Now, y'all know I watch Love and Hip Hop. Yes, I would rather waste my brain cells watching that than anything else. Okay? Let me tell y'all something. In my years, my over a decade years of watching Love and Hip Hop franchise, what I witnessed this past week is a historical moment in reality TV. I have not seen this stunt. I said, you know how people say I'm not aware of their game? I was not aware of Yandy's game. But this goes down in the bird politics, the Bird Hall of Fame. There have been a lot of women who've come on Love and Hip Hop and have accepted mediocrity. We have seen them do whatever for their man at whatever cost. We've seen Rashida do it for Kirk. You know, I thought it couldn't get any worse than Rashida with Kirk, right? We didn't see, what's her name? Kendra, who's with Jaceel, a.k.a. Young Jock, but play her shenanigans with him. We've seen a lot of women on Love and Hip Hop do whatever for their man, play whatever type of games. But what Yandy Smith did this past week on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta goes down in history as probably one of the worst situations I've ever seen a reality TV show woman do for her man, especially on Love and Hip Hop. So let me just give y'all a brief synopsis and why you all should care. Even if you do not watch Love and Hip Hop anymore, I just feel like this has to be discussed. So for the past season, there's been speculation that there's been trouble in paradise for Yandy and Mendeecees. Mendeecees is Yandy's husband, okay? Let me give y'all a little brief synopsis of their relationship before I get to why this shit that happened last week is epic. So Mendeecees is, I don't know what Mendeecees really do for a living. Let me just start there. I guess he's an entrepreneur. I guess he is just the husband of a woman who is an overachiever, okay? Now, he looked good. I ain't gonna hold you. Mendeecees is one of the most attractive men in the Love and Hip Hop franchise. He's a good-looking man. So, I mean, out of all the men that some of these girls go up for, like, I don't know why Kendra does all that for Young Jock. I don't see it, baby. I mean, Erica Mena for Safari, we all understand why she might have been a little dumb for Safari. I mean, I ain't just saying. Kurt, you know, Kurt does not look good anymore. But when Kurt first came on Love and Hip Hop, he was a nice chocolate, dark, and handsome man. Okay? Not so much anymore, but he had his moments. But Mendeecees do look good. Mendeecees has aged well in the Love and Hip Hop franchise. He's a good looking man. And when I think about what the girls do over Scrappy, who barely want to marry any of these girls, I don't know why anybody gives Scrappy the time of day, because he is just a cornball and he's just such an immature, petulant child. But back to Mendeecees. Mendeecees is a good looking man. And Yandy and Mendeecees and all his baby mamas, he has produced good looking kids. All of them look good. Okay. He look good. The baby mamas look good. Yandy's cute. You know, everybody just a good looking man. So I get the birdness slightly if we were talking his earlier era. So Mendeecees got in trouble with the law. Now, when Yandy and Mendeecees first dated, they were not married. They were just boyfriend and girlfriend. But there was some issues going on because he had baby mama drama. One of his baby mamas was dramatic. Him and Yandy's relationship got a little shaky and they went on a break. When Yandy and Mendeecees were on a break, he met another woman, got her pregnant, and then he quickly got back with Yandy. And then Yandy had to deal with 2 baby mamas. But they tried to hide the other girl because it was Erica and the other girl. And they would always try to hide the fact that Mendeecees had problems with both of his baby mamas because they would, they would tag team, the 2 women would tag team, and talk about, the issues that they had with him. And that was a problem where, they would always fight about, child support. So it'd be Erica and Samantha was the names of the 2 women, right? So what happened? he goes to jail. He gets caught up. He caught a bad case. And so he was incarcerated. And Yandy, they got married. First, did they get married first and went to jail? I think they got married, and the marriage was very suspicious. We'll get to that in a minute. But they get married, they get together, he gets locked up, he served some time behind bars. Like, he really went to prison. Like, he was in prison for a couple years. He gets released, he comes back. Now, during that time, Yandy's star power blows up. She becomes Yandy Luther King. She gets an activist community. She makes a name for herself. Yandy, confidence is high. She looks good, but she hold it down for Mendices. She takes care of the kids. She keeps the house afloat. She keeps money, she keeps money on his books. She keeps that house. Okay? She keeps everything on lock. He comes out of incarceration. They stay together. We find out that the marriage wasn't like a legal marriage at one point in time. Like, they had a whole wedding on VH1, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, they got married. But then we find out they're not legally married, and that becomes a controversy. And then at one point in time, they become married, but we still don't know if they're legally married. Like, it's complicated, whatever. But we'll just say that they're married. But legally is still a question mark on that dynamic. But at one point in time, that whole fiasco creates drama. Nonetheless, they're together. But when he comes out, he begins to be very insecure. Like, he wants to, talk about how she goes out too much. She does this too much. But her career is blooming. This is a woman that's working and doing her thing. But he feels like, she needs to be at home and be a wife and be this and be that. And it's like, so even after all that shit she did for him, he still wants to reinforce this crazy ass patriarchy. He wasn't saying all that when she was the breadwinner, putting money on the books and making sure you was good. The commissary was being taken care of. But again, damn that she do, damn that she don't. So for the last season, there was friction because it seemed like their relationship was not compatible based on that. This season, there begins to be some conversations about infidelity, allegations that Mendice's been stepping out, that, he's been telling people in the streets that the relationship is complicated, that he is, not satisfied, and that he's got several different girls and different women he's dealing with out here in the streets. And there's been several blog shade room posts and different posts accusing him of this. So there's a lot of people talking on the blogs and the streets about him. And it's been very telling. Very, very telling. So, I've been paying attention. So this season, one of the castmates, her name is Jessica White. She used to date Nick Cannon back in the day. She has a niece who's a very attractive woman. And the niece says to us, tells the show, and the show says that, look, Mendice tried to holler at me. He saw me at an event. He told me, I asked him, was he married? He said it's complicated. He started DMing me. He was coming at me strong. We was at an event together. He was sitting next to me. He was being next to me and basically acting like he was a not married man. As we would say in the streets, acting single. Mendice was acting single in these streets. So he does all these different things or whatever. Acting single is what he's being accused of. And during that time or whatever, he's acting single, quote unquote. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of quote unquote controversy. And Jessica White says, you know what? I hear this. I know Yandy. I'm cool with Yandy. I need to tell Yandy that her husband is out here, because there has been speculation this entire season and he's been denying it. She's been denying it, but the cast has been kind of like, I don't, Mendice has been out here acting up, basically. But Yandy wants to act like, this is not true, that people just want to tear her and her man and her family up. Okay, girl. So this episode was the episode where Jessica White shows Yandy the messages that Mendice has been hollering at her niece, which is a grown woman, by the way, and that this is happening. And so for me, there's a part of me that's kind of like, okay, this is going to be an episode where Yandy's got to put her hands up. This is proof. This is his DMs. This is a credible messenger. This is her friend. This woman, we see the girl on the show. She admits that there was some messages and there was some flirting. So like all the evidence on the table, this is it. Like Yandy's got to confront this and she's got to face the music.
You know, she has to face the music and deal with the consequences of what she, you know, has been protecting this man. She's been trying to protect him this entire season. And so Jessica White shows her the phone with the messages that was exchanged. And Yandy is playing it calm and cool. And her response goes, "Oh, what's her name?" And, you know, she tells her the name. She's like, "Oh, I know her because I've been, you know, messaging her. I've been messaging her through his phone. Like, dry your tears, darling. There's nothing to be sad about." And I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, no, she didn't. We're not about to do this. So she plays this for this period of time in this segment. She's like, you know, trying to be like, yeah, I know what was said. I messaged her. That was me. That was me talking to her. I have access to his phone. I see all the girls who get to the messages. Yeah, I know about her. And the whole time, Jessica White's like, no, girl, this is not you. Like, this is him. Like, my niece told me. So she's trying to, you know, but she's realizing. So in the testimonial, one thing I respected about Jessica in the testimonial, she says, look, I know Yandy is lying through her teeth, but I don't want to pull the guillotine out on this woman who clearly is going through a lot. So I'll just fall back. So in that moment, because in that moment, Jessica White is like kind of like not arguing with her about it. Like she's kind of letting Yandy like push this BS. And I'm happy that the testimonials happened because I was like, Jess, you know that's some bullshit. Like, hold her accountable. But I realized why Jess didn't do it, because it is uncomfortable and awkward. And Yandy is giving this whole performance like there was no issues, everything's fine. But it's obvious she's being highly defensive. And it's obvious that she did not really know what was going on. And she's feeling very sidetracked. So to make matters worse, she goes outside because they're at a restaurant. She calls Mendices, who I guess is nearby. And Mendices come and she's like talking to him and he's clearly not prepared for what's being said to him. So she's like, you know, let me tell you about something that's going on out here. You know, people always want to do gotcha. I'm like, who's this third party? And she's breaking the fourth wall, which in theater we say when you look at the screen, you look at the public. So, you know, normally in a show, you're looking at the person, you're looking up, you're looking down. But the fourth wall is the actual audience itself. And so I knew something was off. So it feels like this is an awkward moment in the show where it's like, okay, you know, people say, is Love and Hip Hop scripted? I think it's unscripted, but I think the scenarios are clearly set. So they do. What I know about reality TV, at least shows like that, is they put the people in scenarios. Like they put people in the rooms. They make sure everybody can have dialogue, right? But what the cast do with the dialogue is what is not controlled. Now, I've heard with Love, like Real Housewives, they do tell people, they coach people in their ear to do certain things to start. So that's a little bit more script. Like Real Housewives, the new Real Housewives of Atlanta, I'm not feeling on that shit. I don't watch Housewives. That shit is scripted. But what I hear about Love and Hip Hop is it's not scripted. It's more that they put people in the rooms. They know people are going to need to have these conversations. And clearly they set up the scenarios for people to do what they do. And I do believe that there are people on reality TV that definitely show their ass because the cameras are on, because they want to, you know, give energy. So I do think it's fake on their end, but I don't think the producers are necessarily scripting and telling people to say and do. Not on Love and Hip Hop. And that's what I've respected about it. Whereas I know that, okay, yeah, the likelihood of these people meeting up at a restaurant, you know, like, I mean, it is believable because people do in real life, you know, are going to meet each other. If you talking shit, we're going to eventually see each other. So they do create situations for these people to engage. But the choice for them to do that confrontation and how they choose, right? They can choose to fight or they can choose to argue. Like what I love about Love and Hip Hop is that you can see with some of these women, they're like, look, I'm not doing all that fighting shit. We're not about to be flipping tables and I'm not doing that. And there's some of them that want to just flip tables and fight. And that's what they do. They fight and that's just who they are. But some of the women do try to like keep it civil. So this situation was interesting because Yandy goes out. She brings Mendices, who pops up. It's obvious Mendices don't even want to be on camera. He don't even want to have none of this conversation. But she is like,
I want to tell you this. So I got to apologize to you first because, I was in your phone and these girls is messaging you and people want to set us up. You see how they lie and like how they got you? Well, wrong one. Don't do this. And then in this moment, when she's saying all this, I'm like, Yandy, do you hear yourself, boo-boo? Because in this moment, Jessica White confronts him and say, you told this girl that it was complicated. Because how did y'all even get to a place where y'all could talk? So Mandisi's in that moment's like, yeah, I did tell her it was complicated. But, that's all I said. But it's like, dude, why would you, what married man? I don't care. If you're a married man and your relationship is in trouble, as long as you married with you in your situation and you still claiming publicly your spouse and you still in a situation, you all married, telling somebody it's complicated is a dog whistle to say, what's up, come get me. I know women who have been approached by men that told them they were in complicated situations with spouses. Let me tell y'all this right the fuck now. If it's not, I'm divorced. If it's not, I'm single. I don't even go with separated. Because separated, child, that separated word, listen, I know a lot of separated couples that were separated and then got back together. And then you had a break baby on them or whatever. You done had a little situation on the low and then you got back. Separated don't count to me. It's either single, divorced. Separated, how separated? Because that separated word, oh, y'all taking a break because y'all mad at each other. Well, you're not about to get your revenge, fuck over here. I told one of my homegirls to tell this dude that this dude come to her and she thought he was real nice. She found out he was in a situation. He talking about something, it's complicated. And I told her, text that dude back, well, I'm not into complications. Take care of yourself. And she did. But that's the stuff, that people do, that language. But like any man who's married, telling women, single women, that they complicated, that's not good. So he admitted to saying that, but he was just like, oh, I didn't pursue nothing further. That's whatever. And they tried to dust it off, but I was like, no, dude, you was talking to that woman. Yandy's covering your ass, and this is what I believe. Yandy's covering his ass because Yandy still wants to be with him. And I think, and she even admitted years ago that she's the type that, she stand with her husband no matter what. Till death do us part. So I think the sad part about society and marriages and monogamy and all this stuff is that in some situations, I think there are some women who, unless the man is abusing them and they physically abuse them or do something that's really catastrophic to their kids or whatever, finances, they don't really care about that. The problem is that society does have opinions about adultery and infidelity and affairs and cheating and all this other stuff, right? And I think that there are some women who just don't care about that. They just live under this mindset of it is what it is. And maybe some of them women are doing their own thing on the low. We don't know what goes on in people's bedrooms. But I feel like in this day and age, with that much celebrity, money, power, influence, whatever, clout, why give a fuck? Because at a certain point, it's like, if you're going to stay with him and stick with him regardless, then why do you care what people think about your situation? Because the public ain't buying it. And so my thing with Yandy is that if he out here, if Mandisi's out here in these streets cheating, doing whatever, like, I think the issue is that because they have a child that is, about to go to college age and he can see this stuff on the internet, I think they're trying to guard that. But my whole issue is that if you all care about protecting how the kids perceive these situations, then maybe y'all shouldn't be on reality TV anymore. Or maybe Mandisi just needs to be a little bit more discreet because he just out here in these streets, clearly, allegedly. So it's like, in some sense, part of me is like, she know. A woman knows. I don't think she cares. And I used to be, when I was younger and used to watch these shows, I used to be like, oh my God, she finally gonna find out. But then I've realized through time, these women know. I guess I've gotten older and I've just seen things in my own, networks and social circles. Like, these women know. I think the mindset with them is they don't want it to be so visible and so public that they have to publicly address it and have to deal with it. There are some women that live in households where they like, listen, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. There's some that there are dudes I know that are in relationships and they go, don't embarrass me out here in these streets. And so they got understandings. Now, let me be very clear to everybody who listens to this podcast. I don't have any of that. So if you see something that I don't know already, trust and believe, we're going to find out together. Like, I don't do that. I don't, there's none of that over here. There's no special understandings. There's no complications. There's none. This is a very by the book, traditional, typical. It's not spicy in that regard, okay? There's no open partners and marriage. It ain't that over here. But there are people who have that, and there's no judgment. But I think what's important is communication. And I think that whatever the situation is going on between Yandy and Mendices, there is clearly a lack of respect and communication in the situation that even though he knows Yandy's not going to leave him, you also don't need to put Yandy in this position where she has to address this shit in public because she doesn't want to. It's uncomfortable for her. She probably doesn't want people in the business of their relationship and their situation because then again, it's more judgment, it's more memos, it's more gossip, it's more tabloids, it's more other shit. And I think for her celebrity, she doesn't want that. But I feel like at a certain point, it's like, you just got to get to a point, girl, where you just your man is sloppy, he's insecure. He low-key, I think, is doing it to humiliate you. There are some men who do have a humiliation fetish for trying to, in a false sense, quote unquote, humble women that they feel intimidated by. So all of this is just bullshit. And it's just sad to watch that, to a certain degree. So, that's that on that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this week coming up, I'm coming back to the classes. We're going to see how some things playing out. I'm gearing up for what's coming with spring. There's a couple of fun parties I've got invited to this week that I can't wait to talk about. I have to keep them on the hush until, but you'll see I'm going to be coming out, very glammed up and cute for a very, 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 very fancy party that I've been invited to with Mr. Johnson and the Lip Brothers. We're going to all be there for this really special party. And there's just so many other cool things coming up this week. I'm taking a lot of meetings this week. I don't know. This week is popping. Like a lot of meetings, like a lot of conversations and sit downs, like business related, but it's a lot of stuff going on over here in the Ernest Media Empire. So stay tuned for that and, enjoy this episode as always. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.